My sister made a video turning me into the villain. I stayed calm, gathered proof, and let the truth bring consequences she did not expect. I used to think the worst thing was being ignored at the dinner table. Then my sister posted a TikTok accusing me of abuse, tagged my full name, our house and the school where I teach. It blew up overnight. Some of my own students liked the post. My mom said I was overreacting. I didn't scream. I didn't lash out. I opened my laptop, sent the video to my lawyer, and started flipping the game they thought they'd already won. Hey Reddit, have you ever lived in a place where you paid half of the bills but were treated like a freeloader? Yes, it has been my life for the last few years. I'm a 23-year-old male full-time high school teacher who is still stuck at home. Not by choice, but because rent is a fraud, and my family has the emotional maturity of a group chat meltdown. The worst part is that my 17-year-old sister acts as if she runs the place. She's coddled like royalty, calls me every insult she can find online, and my mother dismisses it as harmless teenage sarcasm. So, I stopped playing along. When I finally turned the script, let's just say the golden child and her hype woman didn't take reality well. I work full-time as a high school teacher and continue to live at home. Not by choice, but because rent is a joke and my father's income alone cannot pay everything, I divide the costs with him. It is manageable. Or it was bearable until my sister declared me the corporeal embodiment of Reddit's worst stereotypes. Do you know how every family has one child that can do no wrong? Yes, that is her, the golden child. Our parents treat her like she's a genius, since she once watched a video about sea turtles and is now the brightest person in the family. Meanwhile, I'm over here working full-time, paying half of the mortgage, and getting dubbed an incel for playing a game after work. I wish I had exaggerated. I really do. One day, I came home from work completely exhausted from breaking up a fight between two hormonal freshmen. Sit down to relax with my Switch, and within 30 seconds I hear, "Wow, classic incel behavior from the couch." She doesn't even glance up from her phone, as if it's a reflex now. At first I assumed she had heard that word online and had no idea what it meant. So I asked her directly, "Do you even know what an incel is?" She looked me full in the eye and answered, "Yeah. You." With a smug little smirk. As if she had just dropped a nuclear truth bomb. It wasn't hilarious. It was just foolish and noisy. The difficulty is that she worked out how to get the word to me. So now she uses it as if it were my freaking moniker. Watching anime, incel. Wearing headphones, incel. Making noodles, only an incel would use so much garlic powder. It's like living with a Twitter comment section. And mom. Oh, mom is living in her own fantasy land. Her daughter is a sweet, misunderstood angel, and her son has a harsh, anti-social neckbeard that needs to be lightened. Every time I bring up my sister's conduct, I get told that she is just expressing herself or that it is a phase because she is 17. Or, my personal fave, don't be so sensitive, okay? Because having your younger sister rip your headphones off mid-game just to call you a virgin loser Discord mod in front of your friend on Discord is just normal teen girl behavior. I attempted to rant to mom about it, telling her how humiliating and frustrating it was becoming. She interrupted me midway and said, "You need to learn to take a joke. You're the adult here." Cool. I guess being an adult now means I'm the designated doormat. Dad is different. Kind of. He does not truly take sides. Most days he just tunes everything out and goes to work. I don't blame him for working all the time. With my sister's turmoil and my mother acting like a backstage pageant parent, I'd work more hours too. But the bias is apparent as day. My sister could come home with a D in math, and my mother would say she's simply not a numbers person. I scored a B+ in college, and she wonders why I'm slipping. Sis accidentally dented my car bumper once, and mom told me I should have parked better. She once snatched my favorite hoodie without asking and spilled juice on it. Mom's response, "You should not leave your belongings around." Lady, it was inside my closet. I tried the ignoring method. You know the old adage, don't feed the trolls, but that only made her worse. I'd be minding my own business, marking papers, when she'd pass by and flick the back of my neck to get me to respond. If I didn't answer, she'd add, "Wow, incel and mute. You're leveling up." This is the same person that cried for 2 days because someone didn't like her Instagram story, but she can treat me like dirt since it's only teasing. So, I work all day, pay half the house bills, cover extra expenses like groceries as needed, and then come home to be treated like a walking Reddit insult compilation. I tried talking to her. I tried talking to mom. I've even tried keeping my distance. Nothing works. The golden child receives a free pass every time. She might slap me in the face with a fish, and my mother would most likely remark, Well, he must have provoked her. At this point, I'm simply tired. I work with teenagers all day at school. I shouldn't have to come home and deal with someone who has no accountability for her behavior. And the fact that I'm supporting a portion of her lifestyle only makes things worse. But now I'm really done playing along. If things don't change soon, I'm leaving. I've previously looked at a few rental listings. I am not going to continue sponsoring her private technology collection only to be her personal punching bag. Not in this economy. Not when I could find quiet and Wi-Fi elsewhere. Let's see how wonderful she feels once I'm gone. And her free ride vanishes alongside me. That was my final thought before leaving my room and discovering her slouched on the living room couch, double-chinned and dead-eyed, watching some rubbish reality show on her iPad. I helped pay for the same iPad during Black Friday because she needed it for school. Apparently school entails watching other spoiled brats have tantrums over iced coffee and Instagram posts. She looked up, saw me, and without missing a beat exclaimed, "There goes the Discord mod." I didn't flinch, just stared at her. I was already done. Mom also heard it. She was in the kitchen, humming like a Disney musical, cutting strawberries for a smoothie. She was probably going to feed my sister like a young bird. I waited. Nothing. Not even, "Hey, don't call your brother names." I stepped in. "You're really okay with her bratty spoiled attitude?" Mom looked at me, blinking as if I had interrupted her Oscar-nominated performance, and added, "You're the older one. Be the mature example." Oh right, because adulthood entails allowing your teenage sister to transform your existence into her favorite insult. So I said it out. I told them both in no uncertain terms that if this continued, I would leave. I told Mom I'm not a backup parent, a walking ATM, or an emotional sponge just because she won't deal with her daughter's bad conduct. I assumed she'd panic. Perhaps even pretend to care. Instead, she tilted her head, as if I were the ungrateful one, and said, "So you're just going to abandon your family?" "Abandon, lady? I pay half the bills." She hasn't paid for anything in the house since Netflix cost $7.99. My sister smiled as if she had just witnessed a villain's origin story in real time. She literally grabbed her phone, typed something, and giggled. I wouldn't be surprised if I ended up as an anonymous toxic brother narrative on her closed Instagram account. The saddest part is, she truly believes she is famous. She has about 150 followers and goes around the home like Megan Fox. The way she struts in her mismatched socks and 5 pounds of lip gloss, you'd think she was on her way to a red carpet rather than the cupboard for hot Cheetos. Later that night, I discovered her in the dining room, attempting to record one of those POV, "My incel brother is upset again" recordings. I stepped in while she pretended to cry in front of the camera, with some somber piano music playing. She yelped, dropped her phone and exclaimed, "You ruined my content." "Yeah, sorry for ruining your Oscar audition, kid. My bad for living in the house I helped pay for." Mom rushed in as if someone had been stabbed. She sees me standing there with my arms crossed and immediately goes into defense mode. "Why are you always picking on her?" I had to laugh. Like a full-on laugh. She is making bogus videos crying about me, and I am picking on her. Mom did not even flinch. She is expressing herself. Perhaps if you were friendlier, she wouldn't need to rant online. I couldn't believe what I heard. Could not. I told her straight up. If she posts something with my name in it, I'm reporting it. Don't test me. Mom gasped. "Like if I'd just kicked the family dog. You wouldn't hurt your own sister in that way." "Ma'am, she's been verbally nuking me for weeks and I haven't raised my voice once. But yeah, I am the threat. By the way, I'd want to mention something. Our home isn't a mansion. It's a basic 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom suburban home. You can hear everything from the walls. So, when she starts blaring TikTok videos with artificial voiceovers criticizing Gundam builders, I hear every word. She even taped a post-it note on my door once that read, "Virgin Cave. Enter at your own risk." I pulled it off. The following day, there were 3 more. I informed my father about it when he got home that night. I could tell he was trying not to get involved, but he groaned and rubbed his temples as if he had just discovered he had forgotten his umbrella. "And it is pouring." He advised me, "Try not to take it personally. She's just being a kid." Kids draw on walls and fail to do their schoolwork. This one is conducting a full-fledged humiliation campaign. I told him that I'm not just a gloomy brother upset over name-calling. I'm an adult guy who works full-time and contributes to this home, but I'm being mistreated in my own room, in front of guests, and online. He did not protest, simply nodded. Quiet, as if he knew I was correct but didn't want to admit it yet. Meanwhile, Mom is completely lost in La La Land. Later that night, she sits me down, as if to offer me a life lesson, and says, "You need to understand her. Her generation is different. She's sensitive, artistic, and emotionally intelligent." Emotionally intelligent. She placed a sock into my cereal box the other day and said it was a prank. When I asked what part of it was intellectual, she fell silent and murmured something about how I never encouraged her creativity. I stood up in mid-sentence and went out. I didn't smash the door or shout. I had hardly left the room when my brain short-circuited from the foolishness. From that night forward, I stopped speaking with both of them unless it was about bills or genuine logistics. If I returned home and found her in the living room, I went to my room. If my mother tried to guilt-trip me, I would respond with a cool anecdote and walk away. It got worse the moment I stopped reacting and playing in their strange little family theater. But, here's the deal. What should I do? Fight a 17-year-old, curse her out, or throw something back? Bro, that would make me look insane. She's still a minor, and I'm a grown man with a career that requires a good reputation. She wants a reaction, and I'm not going to give it to her just to make a point. I'm not going to play tug of war with someone who's still doing TikTok dances in the kitchen at midnight while mom dismisses her bratty behavior as a phase. This was not a phase, this was wartime. And I'd had enough of fighting conflicts with individuals who needed me more than they did. So the next morning, I didn't speak to anyone. I just woke up early, made some coffee, and sat at the table, reading through rental postings. I bookmarked 3. Nothing extravagant, just peaceful and far enough away that I didn't hear incel every time I exhaled. Dad entered the kitchen mid-scroll. He seemed tireder than usual. I did not squander time. I told him straight. I'm moving out. Nor bluffing, nor attempting to intimidate people. Just a heads up before I load a box. He did not argue this time. No sighing. No. She's only young. He simply sat down, nodded once and stated, "I get it." I informed him that I wasn't leaving to be theatrical. I was leaving because walking through the door made me feel like a punching bag with a Wi-Fi password. He looked down at his cup and then back at me. "You've been paying for all of her stuff, haven't you?" "Yeah," I replied. "Every bit of it. Laptop, switch, her phone upgrade, her desk. I didn't mind before but now nah." He switched silently, but you could feel it. He stood up, walked directly to her room, and did not even knock. Simply opened the door and said, "Get up." She was still asleep in bed, as if she had never worked a day in her life. When she saw her father was holding a cardboard box, she sat up like a meerkat. "What are you doing?" she inquired. He didn't respond. He simply unplugged her desktop tower, bundled the cords, and slipped it into the box. Calm, efficient, and no screaming. "Dad, that's mine." "Nope," he replied. "Your brother bought it." I overheard her toss a slipper at the wall. He stole the switch next, then the laptop, and finally the Bluetooth keyboard. When she attempted to grab one back, he grabbed her hand and said, "You want these? Buy them yourself." Mom ran in as if someone had phoned 911. "What is going on in here? He's taking my stuff." My sister screamed, clutching her pet penguin like it was her last shred of dignity. "No," Dad replied. "I'm stealing his belongings." Mom stepped in his path like a linebacker, arms extended. "She needs them for school." "She needs a reality check," he responded. "He is moving out. I'm not going to let her continue to enjoy the perks while treating him like garbage." "She's a child, Ethan," Mom yelled. "You're hurting her mental health." He did not even blink. "She's 17, not 5. She is old enough to know better." And now my sister was on the floor, screaming and moaning, as if this was abuse and I couldn't live. Pretty bold words for someone who still has her clothing folded for her. Dad walked past them both and handed me the box without speaking. The room was completely silent save for her sobbing. I did not say anything either. I wasn't going to brag or rub it in. That would have made me just like her. Mom followed me into the hallway, angry. "You really think this solves anything?" "No," was my reply. "But at least I don't have to keep funding the person calling me names every day." She scoffed. "You're so dramatic. She's a kid. You're acting like you're the victim." I merely smiled and said, "Well, newsflash. I am." I brought the box to my room, locked the door, dumped it next to my closet, and resumed sitting at my desk as if nothing had occurred. 10 minutes later I heard my sister slam the bedroom door. Then something heavy struck the wall. Probably her pillow, or whatever statement she was attempting to make this time. Later that night, I had takeout and ate in my room. I didn't feel like sharing a table with anyone. While viewing YouTube, I heard footsteps outside my door. Then something thudded into it. Soft, but with purpose. I opened it. A pair of rolled-up socks sat on the floor. No note, just a passive hostile sock delivery. I did not even react. I just stepped over it and closed the door again. By the time I fell asleep, I had blocked my sister on every app I could think of. If she wanted to continue being a danger, she could do so without my attention. Dad knocked once before bed. Said, "I meant what I said. Let me know if you find a place. I'll cover the first 2 months." I told him he didn't need to, but he insisted. I should have stopped this sooner. I did not argue. He was correct. The next morning I relocated half of my belongings to a friend's house across town in preparation for my full move-in with him the following week. I told him it was only temporary, until I could get my own space. When I returned to get more clothes, Mom hardly looked at me, didn't say anything, didn't blink, and just continued peeling. My sister was not in sight, but I could hear muffled sobs through the wall. For once, I did not feel guilty. They didn't cry because they missed me. They were in tears because they had finally lost the ATM with a pulse. Only 2 days after I had transferred half of my belongings, everything began to fall apart at home. My sister couldn't access her Spotify. She panicked out. Apparently, losing ad-free Ariana Grande was the last straw. She tore across the home like someone had turned off her air. Dad did not react. He just sat there sipping his coffee while she slammed drawers and shouted about her freedom being taken away. I wasn't even home to witness it, but I learned about it later that night when she began ranting in the family group chats. Initially, it was subtle. "I can't believe how nasty some individuals get after they move out." Then it became bolder. She dropped my name and stated that I was mentally unstable and prone to violent outbursts. I said I'd always despised women. She even wrote me a message stating, "If anything happens to me, just know who to blame." As if I were a villain in a teen drama. All of the signals were vague enough to avoid direct accountability while still being evident enough for extended family to connect the dots. My uncle messaged me separately. "Hey man, everything okay? I don't know what to say. What do you reply when your teenage sister launches a PR smear campaign on WhatsApp?" My cousin sent me screenshots. That's the way I saw it. Full paragraphs describing how I'd always belittled her, and how living with a narcissistic sibling made her anxious. She even tried to make it sound like I was a sexist who couldn't stand strong women. The poor are empowered. This is the same individual who once stated that she shouldn't have to take out the trash since it's not visually appealing. I did not respond. Let them type. I knew whatever I said would be distorted, clipped, and circulated like gossip currency. Mom, of course, weighed in on her behalf. She wasn't simply enabling it. She was part of it. In the thread she called me frigid and said, "I forgot where I came from." She also added the usual, "He's changed since getting that job." Yeah, I changed. I stopped letting a teenager run my blood pressure into the stratosphere. Meanwhile, Dad remained mute throughout the conversations. Did not like or respond to anything. That was the most revealing portion. He only sent one message in our private texts. "Do not let them get into your brain. I see what's actually going on." Still, it felt like people were rewriting my life in real time. And they were not strangers. They were family. People I grew up seeing on holidays. They were now sitting about, reading my sister's fanfiction as if it was gospel. Back in the house, the mayhem continued. I stopped by to get the last bin of my belongings. I walked in and stayed quiet. She did not scream this time. She simply hovered nearby, watching like a little creep. When I went into the kitchen, she accidentally spilled orange juice over the counter. No apology, no towel, simply walked away smirking. Mom was in the living room pretending to read a book, but I could tell she'd been watching the entire time. She didn't say anything, but gave me that look of, "What have you done to this family?" As if I were the problem. I carried the bin into my car and prepared to go. Dad stopped me at the main door. He told me he changed the lock on the garage after she tried to sneak back in to get the laptop I had taken back. He seemed exhausted. Said he was thinking of putting a padlock on it just in case. That was how far it had gone. The man guarded the garage as if it were Area 51. He told me that my sister had also tried to guilt him. He claimed he was letting the patriarchy triumph by standing with me, whatever that means. Mom, meanwhile, remained cold. He did not speak to me once. I went without saying goodbye. Not because I was upset, but because I had nothing else to say. Back at my friend's house, I felt like I could finally breathe. He had cleared off a portion of his closet for me and given me an extra key. The first thing I did was check the group chat again. New messages. This time, my sister said she had evidence of my violent behavior and was considering going public. Okay, let her talk. That was my final thought before I turned my phone to quiet and placed it face down on my desk. I didn't have to defend myself in group chats anymore. Allow them to believe what they want. I was not going to dispute with those who believe rumor qualifies as evidence. The peace lasted less than 12 hours. The next morning I received 3 missed calls from a coworker. Then a text. Hey, you should see this. It is about you. I attached a TikTok video. It did not take long to load. My sister had shared a full-blown slideshow video, dramatic music, slow transitions and everything. It all started with a fuzzy photograph of me smiling and holding a dish of food during a family gathering. The photograph was then accompanied by a white text caption that read, "Living with emotional abuse." The following shot showed me playing guitar at a Christmas celebration. He yelled, "He threatens, he has control." Then one from my graduation, "I live in fear." Finally, she shared a video of our house's exterior, including the front lawn and mailbox, and named our high school in the comment. She mentioned my complete name. The caption said, "I don't feel safe. Not all abusers leave bruises. Pray for me." I watched it again. Not because I couldn't believe it, but because I wanted to make sure I remembered everything. Her account was public. Her follower count had increased since I last checked. Comments poured in. People were tagging each other and saying things like, "He needs to be arrested," and "File a report ASAP." There were classmates from her school there. A couple even stated they'd always had negative feelings about me. The worst part was that several of my own pupils loved the post. I did not panic. I did not hurl anything, yell, or pace. I took a big breath, stepped up and began working on what I had previously warned her about. I was planning to report it first. I took screenshots of everything, every frame, comment, and username. I copied the video link, preserved the audio, and backed up the post with a screen recording. I emailed it all to myself. Then I sent everything to my lawyer. When the group chat started, I had already been in contact with him for several weeks. This was the type of evidence he was looking for. Following that, I contacted the principal. I didn't want them to learn about it from anyone else. I described the situation gently and attached the video. By midday, I was seated in the high school's front office, explaining the situation again in person. To their credit, they did not accuse me of anything. The administrative personnel was professional. They claimed I handled it perfectly. They advised me not to interact with her online or offline. Simply let the legal team take charge. By the end of the day, my sister was summoned to a disciplinary conference with the dean of her grade level. According to someone who witnessed it, she cried the moment she walked in, claiming I was attempting to ruin her future because she was more famous. The school immediately suspended her. 2 weeks is a minimum. All student groups had their social media credentials terminated. Academic probation. Parents were alerted. That's when the second meltdown began, the one in the house. My phone lit up with texts from my mother. "You didn't have to go this far. She's only a child. You have devastated our family. You've always been jealous of her. How dare you involve attorneys in this?" I didn't respond. Not a single word. She sent frantic voicemails, some crying, others cursing, begging, threatening, and guilt-tripping. She went through each manipulation style as if she were speedrunning a treatment diagnosis. Then she showed up at school. Not kidding. She really marched into the main office the next morning and requested to meet with the principal. She claimed the school was targeting her daughter, that the charges were misunderstanding jokes, and that I was using my profession to intimidate the family. Security had to walk her out because she refused to leave. Apparently on her way out, she grabbed a stack of flyers off the table and threw one on the floor, saying that she too would be hiring a lawyer. I only discovered out after the secretary wrote me and said, "Let us know if she comes to your apartment. We'll write an incident report." I didn't even bother questioning why they expected she would. They were probably correct. Meanwhile, my sister's post was removed by TikTok. Not because she removed it, but because my lawyer filed a DMCA takedown and slander complaint. It was recognized as harmful misinformation and taken down within 24 hours. On the same day, the cease and desist letter came at the house. My lawyer ensured that it was directed directly to my mother, as her guardian. The wording was clean. No threats, only a stern warning that if another defamatory post became public, we would seek full civil penalties. I never witnessed the real reaction, but Dad told me what happened. She tossed the letter across the room, yelled, "I'm suing a baby," and locked herself in the bathroom for an hour. My sister supposedly called my aunt and told her that I was legally bullying her and that he was going to jail me for just being. A few family members contacted me again. This time the tone altered. A cousin messaged me. I didn't realize it had become so awful. She truly tagged the school. Yes, she did. The tide was turning. That night I had dinner with a friend. I told him everything. He just nodded and continued. I think she forgot you weren't playing the same game. I slept better that night than I had in months, but the aftermath was far from over. My lawyer contacted the next morning to inform me that we had a hearing scheduled with the Juvenile Mediation Court. Nothing unlawful, just ordinary process, a formal response to cyberbullying. We would submit the evidence. She would be compelled to attend beside my mother. If she didn't, the school might take it to the board. I thanked him, then hung up and gazed out the window. My phone vibrated again. Another cousin. She claims you're attempting to wreck her future out of vengeance. I did not respond. Instead, I opened my laptop, looked at my calendar, and marked the court date. Funny thing is, I haven't even begun yet. That was the notion that sat calmly in the back of my mind while everything around them began to fall apart, and I didn't even have to move a finger. By the time the court notification arrived at the house, the harm had been done. The school had already imposed the suspension. Her TikTok account was still disabled. Every classmate who reshared her video received a temporary ban from school activities. Some people unfollowed her. When a story fails to make sense, word spreads quickly. Apparently my sister sought to change the script at school, claiming she was simply promoting awareness. However, no one bought it, especially as screenshots began to circulate. Her captions tagged the school and accused me of abuse by name. She was now strolling down the halls with her head down. Even her typical followers refused to sit with her at lunch. One teacher overheard her murmuring that she hadn't intended for things to blow out like that. Too late. The court session was not even a complete trial, but rather mediation. Standard for resolving juvenile civil disputes. Still, she had to appear in person with my mother. A real judge, authentic documents, no filters, and no dramatic background music. My lawyer claimed she had her head down the entire time. Mom, on the other hand, refused to shut up. She complained about how the whole thing was a witch hunt and that I was targeting a youngster out of malice. The judge reminded her that her daughter was 17, not a helpless toddler, and that falsely accusing someone of abuse at their workplace was not covered by teenage drama. They were obliged to sign a legal agreement to delete all public information on me and prevent further contact. Any violation will result in civil court proceedings and substantial consequences. This should have been the end of it. Of course it wasn't. 2 days later, the building security called me. Said there was a woman banging on the lobby door, pleading to be let in. She claimed she was merely trying to chat to her son. I knew who it was. I didn't go down. Instead, I let her wait there until the security guy told her to leave. She cried on the sidewalk for a time, sitting on a bench, as if someone had abandoned her. Eventually, she departed. I didn't say anything. An hour later, she wrote me a 6-paragraph email via an old Gmail account I had forgotten I had. She called me heartless. Said I emotionally harmed my sister. Said she tears every night. That I should have just taken the high road and not ruined their lives over some online drama. She closed with, "You're not the son I raised." No argument there. That weekend my father came by with pizza. He sat down at my small kitchen table, looking 10 years younger. He said he no longer slept well at home. Said that the silence in the house was not peaceful. It was weird, like they were wandering around pretending the walls weren't closing in. Then came the letter. Monday morning I checked my mailbox and discovered a plain letter with no name. Inside was a wrinkled notebook sheet with sharp, irregular pen strokes. My sister's handwriting. She asked me not to press charges, not because she was sorry, but because things were already bad enough. Still no apology, just a guilt trip couched in victim terminology. I folded the letter and placed it in a drawer. I hadn't planned on suing her for money. This was not about vengeance. This was about shutting it down and making sure she understood she couldn't keep running her mouth and hiding behind the term teenager forever. But then, a couple nights later, Dad gave me a heads up. They're on their way to your house again. I told them not to, but your mother insisted. This time, she got back up. I instructed the security guy to let them in this time. My companion was out, and I was just wondering what they had to say. I'd saw them seated on the hallway floor via the peephole before they knocked. Mom held one of those dollar store food containers in her lap. Something handmade and sad-looking. Sister was slumped over, arms around her legs, not crying or talking. Just sitting there. I opened the door. No words, no expressions. Simply moved aside and walked back in. They followed me in carefully, as if they weren't sure if they were allowed inside, or if I might change my mind. I sat at the kitchen table. They stood for a second before nervously taking the seats across from me. Nobody touched the food. My sister fixed her gaze on the floor. Mom kept staring at me like she was trying to figure out which version of me she was dealing with. The one who used to repair their Wi-Fi and pay for groceries, or the one who took them to court and shut everything down. Mom broke the silence first. "You seem exhausted." I didn't respond. She tried again. "We did not come to fight." Still no word from me. She eventually began rambling, explaining how things had gotten out of hand. How my sister was simply venting. How everything escalated faster than they thought. The words sorry and wrong never appeared. Many of us were emotional, and you misinterpreted. She claimed they hadn't been sleeping. That my sister was in a poor place and under a lot of pressure from social media. She even tried to connect it to when I was cranky in college. I just sat there and let her speak, allowing the guilt trip to take its full course. When she hesitated, I looked to my sister. "Do you have something to say?" She looked up slowly, her eyes red and her makeup smudged. Clearly not used to losing anything. She murmured, "I didn't mean for it to go that far. I was just mad." That was it. I waited for more, some accountability. Anything that sounded like a genuine apology, but no. She looked at me as if I was meant to say it was fine and give her a redemption arc. Instead, I reclined back in my chair. "You attempted to damage my job. You told everyone that I abused you. You've made it public. And now when there are consequences, you're upset it didn't go your way." "I didn't think they'd take it seriously," she explained. "It was only TikTok." "Really? Did you tag my school and use my name?" "That is not a joke. That is a hit piece." Mom reached across the table with the container. "We prepared lasagna. Your fave." I stared at it. "Cool. Leave it at the garbage can on your way out." Her face twitched. That moment when she discovered the sympathy card was full. I stood up and moved towards the door. They did not follow right away. Mom appeared to be attempting to come up with one final monologue. Sister just sat there, looking like she was ready to get grounded. "You came here hoping I'd let this go," I replied plainly. "You believed that if you cried enough, provided food and played the victim, it would erase what had happened." Mom opened her mouth. I shut her off. "I'm not angry anymore. I am done. You asked me to listen. I did. But don't confuse this for a reset." They stood. No embraces. No phony smiles. Just stillness. Mom took one last look back as they walked out. Her voice crackled. "Are you really cutting us off?" "No, I'm just making it official," I replied. "I'm just done being the one getting cut." I closed the door, locked it, and stood there for a second, listening to their footsteps recede down the corridor. Dad called later that night, saying he was staying with his brother for a while, and said he was proud of me for not giving up, even when they tried guilt-tripping. I asked whether he was okay. He honestly stated that it was the first time he had felt sane in some months. We didn't chat for very long because there was no need to. For the first time in years, I wasn't holding my breath, waiting for the next insult, guilt trip, or faux apology. For once I had silence, while others had to sit with the ruckus they made. I was the ATM in a house of women. When I stopped paying, they collapsed, then raged, and now they are begging me to come back. They called it girls only. Until the bills were due. I paid. I gave. I stayed silent. Until one day, I pulled the plug, and watched my whole family fall apart without me. Now they're begging to come back. But I'm done being their wallet with a pulse. Hello Reddit. Ever been treated like a walking wallet by your own family? Yes, same. Except for when payments were due, I was the only man in a house full of women who addressed everything as a girl. They excluded me from dinners, excursions and birthdays, but always remembered me when the rent was late or something needed fixing. I remained silent for years, helping and showing up until they crossed the line one too many times. So I pulled the plug, and their entire world fell apart. Here's how things went down. So, I'm Nathan, a 28-year-old male, and my entire family, at least the part that communicates with me, is all female. My mother, 2 older sisters, Brielle and Megan, age 31, and 33 females. My mother has 3 aunts, 2 of whom are sisters, and 1 of whom is married. Basically, I grew up in a girl cult, and not the fun type where people like you. My father dipped following a violent divorce when I was a child, and no one has heard from his side of the family since. So, yep, I grew up in a house where I was the only guy and was regularly subjected to the "you're just like your father" passive digs whenever I disagreed with something. Moms have always had this switch. If you didn't fall in line, it would be sweet one minute and freezing the next. Anyway, a few years ago, my mother and her sisters began doing these girls-only weekends. That started with a movie, The Avengers or something, and I guess that was a hit because they kept going out every couple of weeks after that like clockwork. I didn't care at first. I'm not the sort to get in anyone's way or cause a fuss. I live alone, have a good job, my own place, and hobbies. If they want to have brunch and gossip, go for it. But then things started snowballing. What began as a girls' movie night evolved into a trip to the zoo, supper, a spa day, bowling, and, at one point, a baseball game. Not kidding. Half of those things aren't even girly to begin with, yet there's still no invitation for me, and every time somebody uploaded pictures in the group chat or shouted about how much fun they had, I'd simply drop a thumbs up emoji and scroll on. I tried to appear like nothing bothered me. The thing is, I am not a distant cousin or a random family friend. I am their son and brother, and I am the one who helps them the most. For years I've been giving my mother money every month to assist her pay her bills. My younger aunt needs assistance with a car payment. I spotted her. One of my sisters was laid off for 3 months. And guess who covered her rent? Me. I have never flung it in their face either. I was raised to support family members, even if they can be unpleasant at times, but they certainly do not treat me as if I matter. My sisters, however, had a completely different tale. My mother acts as if they're nobility. Every time one of them does something simple, like get a job or make lasagna, the entire group text explodes with "proud of you girl" or "you're amazing babe." I purchased my mother a new fridge after her old one died last year, and she said it was lovely, as if I was a random neighbor helping her out. And while I realize I sound bitter, wouldn't you be? Imagine being the only guy in a family full of women, doing everything you can to help them because you know you're the man, and still being treated as a backup plan. For example, if I disappeared, the only thing they would miss was the money. The strangest thing is that they appear to be so kind and caring. That's their entire mood. Sisterhood, women helping women, ride or die energy. However, they have essentially created a small circle in which I am not welcome unless it is Thanksgiving, or someone needs a lift to the airport. Around the second year, it became clear that the girls were the only ones. They would plan things right in front of me. I'd be sitting in my mom's living room, discussing brunch arrangements, or an upcoming trip. And not once would they turn to me and say, "Hey, wanna come?" Not even with a false invitation, just pretending I'm invisible. I once tried to joke about it. I thought to myself, damn, guess I need to grow my hair out and change my name to be part of the club. Crickets are cute. One of my aunts gave a false laugh. My mother did not even look up from her phone. It's as if the moment I mention being excluded, I'm either ignored or told I'm making things up about myself. Which is exactly what they said to my father before he left. So, maybe I'm like him. I believe what messed me up was that I kept giving them the benefit of doubt. I kept thinking that maybe they don't understand how it feels. Perhaps it isn't intended. Perhaps I am reading too much into it. But after 2 years of the same nonsense, no invites, no recognition, and just plain acting like I'm a second-rate member, I stopped making excuses for them. It's more than just being left out. It's the attitude, the entitlement, the way they treat me as if I were a walking wallet and background character. Despite this, they go above and beyond for one another. When one of my sisters asked for help remodeling her living room, 3 of them dropped everything and showed up with paint swatches. I offered to help fix my mother's dryer and was told, maybe let the professionals handle it. Cool. I get it. So yes. At this moment, the girls' main focus was no longer on a cute motif. It was an excuse. It became a method of reminding me I didn't belong, that I'm not one of them and never will be, which would be okay if they didn't rely on me for everything when things went wrong. I did not speak up right away. I kept it all inside. But deep down, I understood that something had to give. I was either going to put up with it for the rest of my life, or admit what it was. Favoritism, entitlement, and disrespect. And I might have been raised to be the good person in the family. But even I have limits. I haven't reached that limit yet. Not then. But it was near. Anyway, as mid-January arrives and I'm finishing off work on a Saturday, I realize I haven't heard anything about Aunt Cheryl's birthday. Normally, by now, I'd have received one of those reservations with 7 messages, followed by some pricey menu screenshots. But the radio is silent. Weird. I text my sister. Nothing. I write my mother, and she responds 5 hours later. We already did something last weekend. Cheryl's going out of town. No heads up? No invite. Nothing. I question. Wait, you all already did her birthday dinner? She answers. Yeah, just a little girls' night. Right now, here's the situation. I don't care about dinner. It is not the food. It is not the aunt. It's a pattern. I'm being told again that I don't have to be there. They headed to the restaurant downtown, which I introduced them to in 2019. It's funny how it only happens to girls when they're enjoying the perks I've given them. And this time, I did not sit there wondering what I had done wrong. I just filed it under. You truly believe I'm disposable, huh? What made things worse? I had previously bought her a gift. I took time out of my week to go get her this specialized herbal tea set that she mentioned casually during a chance conversation in the fall. I remembered it, got it, wrapped it up, and included the card. I don't do half-assed crap like this. I simply believe in doing the right thing for people, even if they don't realize it. Dropped it off at her house like it was an Amazon delivery. No call, no hug, just a thank you text a day later. That's when it changed for me. Not because of the supper or the present. It was discovering I was an afterthought. I'm the man who is remembered after the fun is over. And only because I may bring a gift. I did not vent, I did not argue. I did not guilt trip anyone since I knew what earned respect in this household. No, it is not an effort, it's not a sacrifice. It's being a part of their clique, female club, or inner circle. If you don't fit the mold, you won't receive credit. No matter what you do for them behind the scenes. That is not publicized. That doesn't result in thank you messages. That is overlooked. So, when people wonder why I didn't say something earlier, it's because I didn't want to appear petty. I allowed them to have their girls' evenings, spa days, and inside jokes. I was not attempting to disrupt their party. However, it is no longer just girl time. It's family time, minus the individual they don't want to include. That week, I reached a choice. No more unnecessary effort. I wasn't going to chase inclusion or work so hard to earn something they wouldn't give me. Respect should not be a reward for remaining silent and contributing more. So I pulled back little, not radically, and began saying no a little more. My aunt asked if I could assist her repair her broken screen door. I told her I was tied up. My mother needs assistance resolving an issue with the insurance portal. I told her to call the firm. My sister wanted to borrow money for the third time this year. I told her not just now. You'd think I had burned down their house. Some folks get passive-aggressive after receiving a money text from my mom 2 days later. Did not even respond. I understood they don't only expect me to help. They count on it. They feel entitled to my time, money, and attention, but not to my presence, voice, or seat at the table. I'm good enough to support the family but not enough to keep up with it. So, no, I didn't care about the steak supper. I was concerned that I was the only one who was consistently excluded. I concerned that they didn't even think it was wrong. And believe me, I was already noticing them preparing for something else. Talk of a summer getaway had already begun to circulate in the chat. They referred to it as a small beach getaway. Nothing big, but I understood where it was going. So, usually around March, the women in my family start talking about their annual beach trip. It is a tradition. Weekly rental. Everybody provides food. Some people just take selfies of themselves pretending to cook. And of course, I do the most of the heavy lifting, literally. And monetarily I've been covering the house deposit and sometimes more because, being the responsible guy in the family evidently includes serving as the official ATM. This year, however, there was no word. The group conversation seemed oddly quiet. At first, I assumed they were scaling back, but then I started seeing problems. Instagram pictures with captions like, "Son's calling," shopping bags filled with beach items, and vacation body countdowns from my sisters, as if they were preparing for a photo shoot. Even my aunt casually questioned if I still had that large cooler. There is no mention of the actual journey, only a few subtle cues. I didn't need Sherlock Holmes to put everything together. They were arranging a beach excursion. The same one that I normally bankroll. The same one we all decided on last year was a wonderful tradition. There's only one change now. Apparently I did not make the cut. Here's where things get wild. Back in December, after Thanksgiving, I quipped, "Guess I'll cover the beach house again so you guys don't end up in a shack with no AC." They laughed like I was doing stand-up and said stuff like, "You're the best, and we'll owe you one." That's it. That was the entire scope of the planning meeting. And presumably, that was enough for them to proceed. I felt like I was completely locked in as the unpaid sponsor, arranging the trip, choosing the property, and even putting my name down for the booking, but they never bothered to inform me that they were changing it into a girls-only event. I learned the final tidbit via a remark one of my aunts left on my sister's page. "I'm quite eager for our beach week." Thank you again for reserving it for Nathan. I swear you could hear a record scratch in my brain. So let me get this straight. They're taking a vacation without me, using my name, and have no intention of informing me until the deposit is received. That is not family. That is organized stealing and flip-flops. At this time, I was not even irritated. It was honestly very hilarious. Like watching toddlers attempt a bank heist with crayons and a phony ID, just foolish enough to be bold. Now I could have blown up the group conversation. I could have confronted everyone and gone nuclear. So why bother? They don't listen when I speak, they only respond when I act. So I did what any sensible person would do. I got onto the reservation page, canceled the pending reservation, and deleted my credit card from the account. No warning, just a poof. The repercussions came quickly. Within 24 hours I received the first wave of SMS messages. They started light and disoriented. Hey, something is wrong with the payment. Then came the passive-aggressive wave. I thought you said you could manage it. My personal favorite comes next. We'd already told the kids we were going. This is not fair. Fair. You're arranging a vacation without my knowledge, using my credit card, and refusing to invite me because I wasn't born with the proper plumbing. And you're talking about fairness. But I did not answer. Not because I was upset or trying to be dramatic, but because silence is a complete sentence. They wanted to pretend that I did not exist. Fine. I returned the favor quietly and professionally. Then, just to emphasize the point, I reserved a mountain cottage for the same week. I went with a handful of buddies. There are no announcements or revenge posts. Just a photo of us grilling on the deck, laughing over something stupid, with a fire pit in the backdrop, calm in the air, and that genuine vacation vibe. One in which no one expects you to pay the bill, while still waiting outside the gate. Apparently, the sight alone sparked a meltdown. I didn't see the group chat break apart in real time because I was on mute, but one of my cousins texted me a screenshot afterward. Full panic mode. They had no rental or backup plan. It turns out that if you burn bridges with the guy who schedules everything and pays for it, the vacation ferry will not appear to save you. Nonetheless, I kept it classy. No digs, and I told you so. They scrambled like a broke reality show cast attempting to manufacture a holiday out of vibes and borrowed beach towels, leaving me with nothing but stillness and s'mores in my cabin. Here's the sickest part. Neither of them apologized. Not one. They tried to make it appear as if I had faltered. As if it was my fault for not reminding them that using my name and card needed my explicit permission. At this moment, the entitlement has reached Olympic level. They don't respect me, but they expect me to appear as the unnoticed sponsor of their festivities. And when I don't, I suddenly find myself producing problems. No, they wanted a girls' getaway. They received one, but not the deluxe edition they were used to because that version required me. So, after the whole trip disaster, I didn't make a fuss. I didn't send long messages justifying myself or use dramatic one-liners in group chat. I simply stopped replying. There was no last straw speech or storming out. I severed the cord in the same way that a contractor would disconnect power to a condemned building. Quiet, final, and unconcerned with what's still happening inside. And for a while, I was almost persuaded they had received the message. The group talk was dry. No texts, no phony invitations. Just pure silence, which was similar to my family hearing a dog not bark when someone knocked on the door. It did not feel serene. It seemed weighty, as if they were regrouping. Next came the couch test. My older sister emailed a one-liner Monday morning. Can you help me take my new couch upstairs? The delivery men will not do stairs. No greeting, no check-in. Just write back in the same entitled tone as if I had struck pause rather than stop. I didn't respond. I read it while eating a morning burrito and continued browsing. Aunt Cheryl contacted on Tuesday with some, "Hey sweetie" fluff and a request for assistance in disputing a credit card transaction. She claimed the webpage was confusing and she did not want to call anyone. I said, the number on the back of the card still works. Nothing happened after that. Wednesday morning, I received the call. Now, for perspective, my mother only calls when someone dies or when she needs something complicated that she can't text about. So, when I saw her name come up, I picked it up out of interest rather than anxiety. She did not waste a second. Your sister's automobile was totaled this morning. She blurted out. She is in the hospital. It is awful. They are suggesting she needs surgery. Her legs were really messed up. We're trying to raise the funds, but it's tight. There is no hello, no building, only a direct route to panic. I paused. Something didn't sit well. For starters, she did not specify which sister. Not their name, not the hospital, not even the customary dramatic voice she uses when she is shaken. So I asked flat. Where is she? St. Thomas? She answered too fast. They won't let anyone in right now because of all the scans. They're being strict about access. They still didn't say their names. I assured her that I'd call the hospital directly. Her tone shifted sharply. No, don't do that. She's in and out. They won't be able to confirm anything. It's too soon. I did not argue. I simply said, all right, and hung up. I then opened Instagram. I checked both of my sister's pages. My older one hadn't posted in a day, which was not uncommon. But my younger sister just published a photo of a cappuccino with her name typed incorrectly on the cup, with the message, "Barista's never going to get it right." Big smile, full makeup, comfortable sweater. Not exactly the vibe of someone just out of surgery. I double-checked the timestamp. 7 minutes ago. If she was at a hospital, they must have started serving artisan coffee with faux art recently. I slumped back in my chair, phone still in hand, and simply stared at the screen. My own mother had staged a car accident, surgery, and an emergency in order to defraud me. And the thing that really grabbed me. She didn't even try. There were no phony tears, no build-up, or emotional manipulative finesse. Just an automatic, heartless lie, like if she were ordering delivery. That's how casual things had become. Weaponizing tragedies to squeeze me like a bank account that won't close. I did not call anyone. I did not respond to his text. I just let it sit. The next morning, the group chat erupted with ambiguous babble. My mother sent a passive message. Thank you to everyone who came together yesterday. I'm reminded why family is important. Translation. I didn't receive what I wanted from him, but I'm still going to say the fraud succeeded. Then Cheryl wrote, some of us just do more, and that's okay. I closed the application. I wasn't astonished anymore. I was finished. This was not a misunderstanding. This wasn't an overreaction. This was a deliberate emotional hoax. This was my own mother fabricating an accident since my silence affected their financing source. I spent the following hour arranging screenshots. Every time they requested for money, every last-minute frantic favor, and every guilt SMS I had ignored until now. I saved everything in a folder on my phone labeled memory. Not to embarrass them later, or to send it to anyone, but to ensure that I never forgot how far they came when I stopped being their scapegoat. That silence, that calm, wasn't just satisfying. It was liberating. Then the final blow came. Saturday night, my mother texted again. There will be no big opening this time. There is no false emergency, simply, can you help with rent this month? Things have been hard. Everyone's doing their best. I glanced at it, then typed, everyone's best looks a lot like my worst. I sent it. Mute. Did not even wait for her response. I blocked her phone number for the weekend so I could enjoy 48 hours of uninterrupted time. I wasn't upset. I was just being straightforward. The issue with cutting people off is that the silence doesn't affect them right away. Consequences do. And when I finished helping, I didn't leave a note. There's no final warning. Simply unplug the power and walk away. The fissures took roughly 2 weeks to show. Then everything started crashing quickly. First one within the blast radius. Brielle, my older sister, had been driving a car that I had officially co-signed 2 years earlier. Long story short, she was unable to qualify for a loan. Begged me to simply put your name on it. She said she would take care of everything. And she did for a while, until I quietly removed my name following the vacation stunt. I completed the legal paperwork about a month ago. I gave her a heads up that she ignored. I did not push it. I just got out. It turns out she was overdue on payments. 3 to be exact. The dealership repossessed the automobile in broad daylight, right outside her workplace. A coworker taped the entire affair. She called my mom, crying like a grounded teenager. Mom texted me, how could you do this to her? Do this to her? I did not contact the repo guy. I simply stopped babysitting her mess. That following weekend, I received a call from the power provider. My name remained on the account at Mom's residence. I assumed I had already turned it over to her. Guess not. She hadn't paid for 2 billing periods. Balance was approaching $600. They were about to turn it off, so I paid. Nah. I phoned them, removed my name instantly, and let the system handle it. That Monday they were without power for 36 hours. Mom texted me, wow, you really don't care anymore, huh? She was correct. I did not. Then came the bounced rent. Megan, my younger sister, had been paying rent on a 2-bedroom apartment she shared with a roommate, but she had been relying on funds from the family pool to get by. What about the family pool? Yeah, that was essentially me. When I stopped wiring her anything, she fell behind quickly. Her roommate launched a passive-aggressive rant on Facebook. Some persons are not equipped to handle adult duties. Very subtle. Megan was back at her mother's house in 3 days, sleeping on the couch and blaming the unhealthy living environment. I'm thinking the landlord did not purchase that one either. By week 3, Aunt Cheryl was selling furniture on Facebook Marketplace. That alone did not surprise me. What surprised me was the description she gave for a $90 used coffee table. A family is experiencing difficulties as a result of betrayal. Please help if you can. Betrayal. I practically spewed up my coffee after reading that. For years these folks were so used to feeding off of me that stopping the gravy train felt like a betrayal. This is the portion that got twisted. Someone tried to open a new credit card in my name, but I'm not sure who it was. They still had some older mail. Perhaps adequate for a week application. I received a fraud alert email, flagged it, refused it, and shut everything down. I did not even confront anyone. Allow them to experiment with nasty play. All they did was expose themselves more. The next thing I know, Mom's bank account is frozen due to an overdraft. She called my aunt, wailing over having to cancel an upcoming dental surgery, because we are not all fortunate enough to be able to neglect family. The same woman who staged a car accident 2 weeks ago is now exploiting cavities as moral leverage. By mid-month, my cousin had messaged me on the side. Just so you know, they're currently attempting to enlist Uncle Leon's help. I told him you shut everyone off without justification. That day, Uncle Leon called to make me laugh about it. He isn't really family. He's an old acquaintance of my father's who came over every now and then but had his own life and family. He's a solid dude, man. He remarked. They really painted you as the villain. I said, I don't care. Let them. Because here's the kicker. When I stopped supporting the show, the entire set collapsed. No vacations, no rides, no bill assistance, no insurance paperwork, and no support. They were not upset that I changed. They were angry that they had to. One day Megan called me personally. This was her first call in months. I let it ring directly to voicemail. She texted afterwards. Can we at least discuss why you're acting like this? You used to help. Yes, I used to, when there was some mutual respect. Or at least the appearance of it. But after the lies, frauds and entitlement, the silence was not retaliation. It was sanity. Then came the hospital stunt. Not the bogus one. This one was real. Aunt Cheryl tripped at work and shattered her wrist. There was a need for outpatient surgery. It was a little issue, but the deductible appeared to be high. She texted me an essay about how no one else can help right now. And I understand you do not want to hear from us, but this is different. And different. When I injured my wrist 4 years ago, I paid out of pocket and received no calls or support. They sent me a humorous meme about how men are awful at resting. I left her text to read. And that must have been the final straw for them, because they went completely insane afterward. Mom wrote a message in the group chat, which is still muted on my end, saying, "We don't need anyone's help. Some people just want to see others fail when they stop being useful." Aunt Cheryl wrote underneath. That's what happens when someone thinks money equals morals. They were attempting to change the narrative, as if they were the victims of a tyrant ruler who had taken away their free meal. As if they hadn't spent years on autopilot, handing me cash and expecting me to grin and swipe. Finally, the cherry on top. They tried contacting my boss. I am not kidding you. Someone, most likely Brielle, posted an email to my workplace's general inbox claiming that I had abandoned my sick mother, which was impacting his mental health and ability to focus at work. The communication was so bizarre that HR emailed it to me and inquired whether I was all right. I laughed, said family drama, and they dropped it. That was the day I changed my phone number. No huge speech, no dramatic farewell. Just done. Same city, job, and apartment. But I cut everything they used to entice me back. This time, there would be no more chances. It wasn't the I'm simply going to ignore them. They don't exist for me anymore. I didn't announce it. Let them continue texting into the emptiness. Allow them to find it out when their calls stopped getting through and their group chat rants were never received. For the first time in years, I was not on standby. There are no midnight emergencies, no demands for bill assistance, no faux birthday guilt, simply a clean, silent line where there was once pandemonium. Uncle Leon was the only person I still kept in touch with. He would contact me on occasion with updates, such as a sports review of a team I had quit rooting for. Brielle appears to be suffering with her commute, Megan is eating through Mom's cupboards like locusts, and Cheryl has been pawning furniture so quickly that the living room resembles a murder scene. He inquired if I was okay. I told him I was as good as I'd ever been. But deep down, I knew the silence would not endure. This was not over. I knew it was not over. You don't remove yourself from a whole system of exploitation and then expect them to let you go. Parasites don't give up their hosts easily. It was Saturday morning. I had the windows open, coffee on the counter, and some jazz playing quietly on my Bluetooth speaker. Given the year I'd had, it felt almost artificially peaceful. The air even smelt fresh. That strange stillness you get when everything is absolutely right. Then came a knock. Not a friendly neighborly, "Hey, you got a sec?" type of knock. This was fist on wood. Aggression at its most extreme. Someone seeking to disrupt rhythm rather than create touch. I opened the door, and there she was. My mother. Not the version of her who used to bake cookies and give forced embraces. It was a different version. Hair wild, eyes fixed on me as if I had thrown her down a precipice. Her mouth was already moving before I could say anything. "You really think this is how you treat family?" she exclaimed. "You think you can just throw us all in the street and pretend like we don't exist?" I blinked. "No, hi. No, can we talk?" Just an immediate accusation, as if I had burned down the house and left a letter saying, "Figure it out." I did not respond right away. I simply gazed at her. Really stared at her. She seemed exhausted. Not exhausted from work or aging. Tired like someone who had spent weeks lying, scrambling and blaming and couldn't figure out why nothing was working anymore. Then I just said, "You chose this." Calm, steady, no yelling. And that's what got her going. "You're just like your father." She muttered, as if it were the final insult. "Cold, selfish and resentful. He abandoned this family, and you're following suit." I remained at the doorway, arms crossed, not giving her an inch. "Dad departed because you treated him poorly. I just figured it out faster." She slapped my cheek with an open fist. Not hard enough to knock me back, but enough that the music within no longer felt suitable. I did not flinch. I only nodded slowly, like if a math equation had finally resolved itself. "That was all you had left, right?" I said. "When the guilt and falsehoods no longer worked, you went back to basics." She started pacing and rambling. Something about Megan having nowhere to go. Brielle is in debt because of me. Cheryl is unable to organize her life since she is overly anxious. Then she pointed to the street and yelled, "You're sitting here in your little apartment living your little life while your family is drowning. You mean the family that used me like a checkbook and left me out of everything unless something needed fixing?" I requested an explanation. She didn't respond. Instead, she snatched the potted plant beside my door, an ugly porcelain cactus that someone from work had given me, and threw it down the stairs. Ceramic exploded. Soil is everywhere. Did not even blink. "You think this makes you strong?" she exclaimed. "You think cutting everyone off makes you better? You're a coward. A spoiled little coward just like your father." Then she began removing items from the small patio table, tossing my ashtray, knocking over the folding chair, taking her keys, and damaging the paint on the railing. I took a step back and pulled my phone out of my pocket. Still calm, she continued to yell, "You'll regret this. You'll die alone, just like him." Then she kicked a panel near my air conditioning unit. It cracked. Not even a large crack, but enough to be dumb. That was when I dialed. Not to threaten or warn her. I phoned the cops, explaining that my mother was trespassing and vandalizing my property. I said it flatly, as if I were ordering lunch. "You're calling the police on your own mother?" she asked. "On the woman who pretended to have a hospital emergency, attempted to steal from me, and simply vandalized my property? Yes, that is what I am doing." "You're disgusting," she said. "I learned from the experts." I did not raise my voice, did not match her insanity. I just let her know I wasn't the same kid who said yes to every guilt trip. I wasn't the same man who helped them out when they failed to pay their water bill or mistakenly filled up their data plan by streaming Netflix all month. I was finished. The dispatcher remained on the line and inquired if she was still on the premises. I said yes. My mother stood there shaking, not crying, but screaming, as if she couldn't understand how someone like me, who was always bent, could suddenly not shatter. I saw her collapse a little when she realized I wasn't joking, and that cops were actually on their way. She backed off the porch, took one more glance at me, then turned and stomped toward her car. Before entering, she shouted, "Don't come crawling back when no one wants you." I gazed at her and answered, "I'd rather be unwanted than used." She sped away. Tires screeched. Nothing spectacular, just the sound of someone out of control who wants to feel powerful. Again. 15 minutes later, 2 officers arrived and took a fast statement. I showed them the broken pot, the damaged panel, and the scratch on the rail. I also had everything on camera. My doorbell cam had recorded the entire spectacle in high definition. They offered to submit an official report. I answered yes, not because I wanted her arrested, but because I wanted a record. The following day, Uncle Leon called. He had heard. When someone such as my mother has a public meltdown, the news spreads quickly. He was not surprised. I just inquired whether everything was okay. Yes, I told him. She finally revealed who she truly is. He breathed deeply and responded, "Sometimes people aren't mad that you stopped helping. They're mad you stopped believing they needed help in the first place." I hung up and stood in the center of my living room, letting the silence settle in. She was gone. Not physically. She still existed, and lived 15 minutes away. But the illusion had vanished. The expectation that she would change, comprehend, or just back down when I asked her to. All of that ended when she flung a flower pot and scraped my porch rail like an adolescent keying an ex's car. This was the final break. There will be no more texts, second chances, or excuses based on shared blood. Just me standing in the ruins of a family that expected me to keep things together and despised me the moment I stopped. A week later, and everything still feels silent. Not phony silence, but true quiet, with no phone noise, no fake emergencies, and no guilt bombs wrapped in checking texts. It's as if someone turned off a sitcom that had lasted too long. After the cops arrived that day, I did not try to twist anything. I spoke the truth. She smacked me, keyed my porch rail, flung a pot on the steps, and yelled as if I were the devil. The officer wrote everything down and asked if I wanted to seek charges. I replied, "No, just document it." I needed something on paper in case she did it again. He nodded and departed, but the harm had already been done. That news destroyed her fantasy that I was usually quiet. She was not arrested, but she was issued an official warning, which she despised. Uncle Leon informed me that she has been telling her family that I ruined her life by siding with the law over blood. I believe in her perspective, blood represents immunity from consequences. Meanwhile, her meltdown was the last straw for everyone else. Cheryl stopped communicating with her 2 days later. Apparently they didn't want to be linked with someone unstable enough to draw police attention. Brielle moved out briefly, claiming she needed more room, but she is currently couch surfing. Megan is still confined there, but she seldom speaks to her mother. The house is like a powder keg, with no one to absorb the heat. And me? I'm simply watching it unfold from a distance. I changed my number and blocked everyone except Uncle Leon. He's the only one who speaks to me as if I'm human. Not a debit card on legs. He updates me, but never informs me how to repair it. It just states that they are adjusting to life without you. Brielle attempted to text me through a burner number. Said I was cruel. Mom's depression worsened. Megan claimed he had to take out a payday loan. I read it and deleted it. I've saved enough. It is their turn now. The funny thing is that when you finally set boundaries, people believe you've changed, that you're bitter, and that you've become the villain. Nah, I'm the same man that helped fix the fridge, paid for birthdays, reserved rental properties, handled payments, and listened to their messes. The only thing that changed was that I stopped playing dumb. I started spending money on myself. Nothing fancy, just regular stuff. Replacing worn-out footwear, repairing the air conditioner in my car, and ordering takeout without considering if I'd need to transfer money to someone else that week. I eventually reserved a cabin up north. Solo travel, no group conversation, no drama. Can you drive us? I now spend most of my evenings sitting outside. It feels strange not checking my phone every 5 minutes for another favor. It is almost too still. But then I remembered the scratch on the porch rail. The one she left. I left it there. I could have sanded it off by now, but I didn't. It reminds me how close I was to losing my tranquility again. Mom hasn't responded since. No apologies, only quiet. Probably still telling the story her way. Probably still believes I'll break eventually. I will not. I'm not mad anymore, not even sad, just finished. Some people believe that silence signifies failure. For me, it signifies finally. My wife wanted an open marriage to find herself. I agreed. 6 months later, she brought her lover home. And everything began to fall apart. Lana stood there defiant, one hand still resting on Blake's arm like she owned the room, like she owned me. My voice was calm, but every word cut like a blade. This house was never yours. You brought him into my home, drank my whiskey, and called it freedom. Her smug smile faltered, replaced by the dawning realization that the game she thought she controlled was already slipping through her fingers. I, a 36-year-old male, have been driving trucks cross-country for 12 years. If you don't mind being alone, this is a good deal. Until recently, I believed my marriage to Lana, a 35-year-old woman, was fair enough. We've been together for 10 years and married for 7. I purchased my house before we married. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, built in the 1990s, but I paid $210,000 for it in 2015, and it's now worth nearly $450,000. Lana seemed to enjoy my stability when we first started dating. I'd be gone for days driving routes, then return home for a few. We had a system. She worked at an insurance company and managed cooking. I took care of the repairs and yard work. A simple arrangement that worked. Given my schedule, a practical division of labor seemed appropriate. Our existence was not Instagram-worthy by today's standards, but it was steady. We'd go camping in the mountains, hang out with a small group of pals, and watch movies on weekends, like normal people. I assumed we were on the same page about what marriage entailed. Partnership, loyalty, and creating something together. Then things changed when her sister Sabrina, 38 and female, returned to town following her second divorce. Divorced twice. Constantly looking for a new guy or life experience. The type of woman who shares motivational phrases on social media while her life is a complete disaster. Suddenly, she was in our house, telling Lana stories about exotic holidays, weekend flings, and how life is too short to be tied down. I was not blind. I witnessed the changes in real time. Lana went from being satisfied with our lives to suddenly acting as if she was missing out on some wonderful adventure. She began following all of these lifestyle influencers, ladies in their 30s and 40s with suspiciously large amounts of free time and money who were always flying to Bali or wherever. I began to see changes in Lana after that. Small talk at first, complaints about our boring routine, remarks about how I wouldn't understand certain things because I'm only a trucker. It was as if the work that paid for everything had become something to be ashamed of. She would roll her eyes if I mentioned saving for retirement or home upgrades. She started making strange comments about other couples we knew, like, "Did you know Victor and Sarah are in therapy? Apparently they're working through some sexual compatibility issues," and dropping these little bombs throughout dinner like they were entirely regular conversation subjects. She resigned her job 3 months ago without telling me. "I need to find myself, Ethan," she said one night as I was fatigued from a 14-hour trip. "This insurance job is killing my soul." I meant for more. I was too tired to argue. Just asked, "What's the plan? Another job or school? Are these reasonable questions?" "I need some time to explore my options," she remarked, as if she were a fresh college grad rather than a 35-year-old woman with bills. "I've been thinking about something that allows me to express myself." Express yourself on somebody else's dime, I thought, but didn't add. We had enough savings to float her for a while, and I figured maybe some time off would help her reset, but apparently that meant scrolling Instagram and meeting Sabrina for endless brunch while I was on the road. Our agreement about splitting responsibilities had gone, and I'd come home to a dirty house, no food, an attitude when I mentioned it, dishes piled in the sink, laundry untouched. Meanwhile, she'd somehow found time to buy new clothes and get her nails done twice a week. I didn't make a big deal about it. I just started doing everything myself. Cooking, cleaning and doing laundry while working 60+ hours a week on the road. But I started checking out mentally, and I spent more time with my buddies at the garage where we work on project cars. Nothing clears the mind like working on an old engine. You don't have to guess what's wrong, you diagnose it, fix it, and it works again. I'd ask about her job search, and she'd accuse me of not supporting her journey. I'd point out that she wasn't contributing, and she'd accuse me of being controlling and financially abusive. I'd bring up our agreement, and she'd say that agreements change and I needed to adapt. So there I was getting home from a 3-day haul thinking it was just another Tuesday. Lana asked me to sit down in the living room. She had that look where someone's about to drop a bomb. "Ethan," she started swirling her glass. "I've been doing a lot of thinking about us." Uh-huh. My stomach did a little flip, but I kept my face neutral. "I think it's time we explored," she finally said with a straight face. "Explore?" I asked, keeping my voice even. "Explore what?" "National Park." My brain short-circuited. This was Lana. The woman who once got jealous when I mentioned a female truck stop cashier was friendly, and now she's casually pitching screwing other people like she's suggesting we try a new restaurant. "Wait, are you serious?" was all I could manage. "Yes, completely," she said with this strange brightness in her voice. "I think it could be really liberating for us. Bring a new spark. We both get to experience new things, New people, no secrets. It's all above board. This marriage is so restrictive. I want to explore others. My initial feeling was rage, followed by a strange, icy calm. So, you want to sleep with other guys? Cheat without saying you want to cheat, I responded dismissively. It's not just that, she muttered. It's about freedom and growth for both of us. I want to see other men. You know, more interesting men. Interesting, I said. Like that CrossFit instructor you and Sabrina keep talking about. Her face flushed. Bingo. She'd been mentioning this Blake guy for weeks, how inspiring his journey was, how he'd quit his corporate job to become a fitness instructor, how he was really connecting with his authentic self. Authentic self, whatever the hell that is. We argued for about an hour over the usual points. She wanted experiences. I pointed out that vows mean something. She said I was stuck in patriarchal thinking, and I reminded her that she used to value loyalty. She kept using buzzwords like evolving relationship models, ethical non-monogamy, and expanding our capacity for connection, as if she had swallowed a self-help book while I was thinking about mortgage payments and STD risks. Okay, Lana, I said. Lana blinked. Okay, just okay. Yeah, I said, if that's what you want, let's do it. Lana looked like someone who'd prepared for a war and suddenly found the enemy surrendering, suspicious but relieved. Let her think she'd won. That would make the next moves easier. Lana's shocked expression quickly morphed into a smug smile, as if she'd won something. Wow, I didn't think you'd be so open-minded. She jumped right in. Well, we should be honest about who we're seeing, not lying or sneaking around, and we should still prioritize each other, like date nights and stuff. Makes sense, I said. And maybe we start with just casual things. Nothing serious or emotional with other people. I just kept nodding, watching her lay out this framework she'd obviously been thinking about for weeks. Probably had the CrossFit guy lined up already. He'd been liking all of her Instagram posts. I asked, when were you thinking of starting? She looked away. Well, there's a gym social thing tomorrow night. Of course there was. Go for it, I said. I've got a 3-day haul starting tomorrow anyway. She was confused and seemed almost disappointed at how easy this was. She'd clearly been rehearsing arguments in her head, expecting me to fight harder, maybe even wanting me to. The next 6 weeks were a wild ride for Lana, who jumped right into her new lifestyle with enthusiasm. I'd respond with simple okay or fun messages, never asking for details, and it drove her crazy that I wasn't jealous. It was like watching someone live out a fantasy they'd convinced themselves was sophisticated and evolved, when all they wanted was to have sex with someone new while keeping their security blanket at home. In the meantime, I was quietly putting my house in order. I called my bank and set up a new account at a different bank. I started moving small amounts over, nothing suspicious, just enough to build a safety net. I documented everything that happened in our marriage in a password-protected file. I scheduled a consultation with a divorce attorney during one of my longer hauls. I also stepped up my gym routine. I started doing heavy compound lifts, added cardio, lost 15 pounds of fat, and began. Victor, the attorney, had seen it all before. After I explained the situation, he said, "She wants to have her cake and eat it too. Your house is premarital, so that's protected. No kids make it cleaner. Keep documenting everything and don't confront her yet." Victor was this non-nonsense guy in his 50s, divorced twice himself, and said his own experiences made him better at his job. He could spot the patterns because he'd lived them. "Women like your wife," he said, leaning back in his chair, "think they've got it all figured out. They think they can have the freedom of being single with the security of being married, but it doesn't work that way." I took his advice, kept my head down, let Lana have her fun, and quietly prepared for the inevitable. The other shoe dropped about 2 months into this arrangement. Claire, a 35-year-old female fitness instructor who lives 2 doors down, had been too friendly with me for years, according to Lana, who had made jealous comments about it. Claire would sometimes chat with me when I was working on my truck in the driveway, talking about cars and neighborhood gossip. I'd always kept it strictly neighborly out of respect for my mother. One Saturday, I was changing the oil in my truck when Claire approached. "Hey neighbor," she grinned, leaning against my toolbox. "I haven't seen you around much lately." "I've been on the road a lot," I answered, wiping my hands on a rag. She looked wonderful in a tank top and shorts, and she smiled at me differently than before, more intently. "So I heard through the grapevine that you and Lana have some type of arrangement now." I looked up at her. "Where did you hear that?" "Small neighborhood. Lana's been seen around with that guy a few times. Very clear. Is that what's going on?" She shrugged, simply curious if it goes both ways. Lana drove into the driveway before I could respond. Her expression when she saw Claire chatting to me was priceless. Utter terror. She virtually raced over. "Ethan, what's going on?" Claire inquired innocently. "Just saying hi to Ethan, right?" Lana asked, her gaze flitting between us. "Ethan, can I talk to you inside for a minute?" She exploded the instant we walked through the door. "What the hell was that? You and Claire, we were just talking." I answered casually, as we have for years. "Don't act dumb." She was almost undressing you with her gaze. I raised an eyebrow. "That's a problem because it's Claire. The woman I've told you about for years has feelings for you." I leaned against the countertop. "I assumed we were in an open marriage now. Isn't this what you wanted to investigate?" Her face expressed roughly 5 different emotions. "That is different. We see Claire all the time. It would be unusual and messy. So, your CrossFit instructor is fine. But my neighbor is not that intriguing. It is not the same." She insisted. "Blake is. He's simply casual. No emotions. And Claire would not be casual because she has always had feelings for you. She would want more." Lana was virtually shrieking now. I remained totally calm. "So, your concern is not that I might hook up with someone else. Your concern is that it may be someone who genuinely likes me." That was not what I stated. "That is precisely what you stated, Lana. You're fine with me having pointless sex with strangers. But God forbid I meet someone who genuinely cares about me." The fight lasted for hours, her position kept moving. First, Claire was off limits because she was a neighbor. Then I learned that she was Lana's enemy. Then, because open marriages should focus on fresh experiences rather than old crushes. I finally walked out and into the garage. I spent the remainder of the day working on my project car. Give me some time to consider. The following few weeks were tense. Lana resumed her exploration with CrossFit Blake and possibly another guy she met at a club. Meanwhile, I was under monitoring. She would come home early when I was off work. She started monitoring my phone when she believed I was sleeping. I even tried to get the password for my new email account. I offered her nothing to look for, which made her even more suspicious. The more empty the treasure trove, the more persuaded she was that I had concealed the genuine goods somewhere else. Classic projection. She was being sneaky. So I must be too. My whole emphasis changed towards self-improvement. I am going to the gym 5 days a week now. During long flights, I began reading books on finance and investing. I reconnected with old pals who I had lost touch with during my marriage. I had actual hobbies again. I was actually in the best shape of my life. Down to 185 from 215. Bench pressing more than I did in my 20s. Pushing large weights might be soothing when your life feels out of control. Can't save your marriage? At the very least, you can add another plate to the bar. The divorce attorney became my unofficial buddy. I'd contact him on long stretches of highway to inform him on the latest developments, and he'd tell me to keep the course, document everything, don't engage, and let her dig her own grave. Then Claire upped the ante. She texted me one afternoon about having a modest cookout this weekend. Only a few neighbors. You should come by. Lana, of course. I showed Lana the text. I thought she was about to burst. She snapped. We are not going. She's simply trying to get closer to you. Maybe I'd like to go, I said calmly. Good cuisine, neighbors, and regular social activities while admiring Claire in her swimsuit. I do not think so. It's interesting that you get to go on genuine dates with other men, yet I can't attend a neighborhood barbecue. That is different. You are already aware of this. The specifics vary. She couldn't explain it without confessing her hypocrisy. I just kept saying it was different, and I was being purposefully obtuse. I attended the cookout nonetheless. Lana declined to attend. That's exactly what Claire said. Just a few neighbors, some excellent food and beverages, and everything is perfectly innocent. Claire and I spoke, but nothing improper occurred. One of the other neighbors, an elderly man named Roy, who had lived in the neighborhood for years, pulled me aside at one point. Heard about your situation, he replied, passing me a drink. Went through something similar with my first wife back in '92. These open marriage things never work out the way they're pitched. Someone always has an agenda. Roy had a weathered face that had seen it all. Vietnam veteran, now retired, but yet built to handle himself. The type of guy who would give you the clothes off his back yet would not hesitate to tell you when you were doing foolishly. How did yours end? I asked. He chuckled. I saw her with my so-called best friend. It turned out that the open part was only for her, not me. The classic bait and switch. He sipped his drink, divorced her, and lost the house since I didn't know better at the time. The best thing that has ever occurred to me, however. I married Helen 6 years later and we've been together for 30 years now. Lana was already waiting for me when I arrived home. Have you seen her? Excuse me, Claire. Have you seen her? Do not lie to me. Wait, why is that a problem for you? Didn't we open our marriage? Claire is the problem. Yes, sure. She was boiling. I checked my clothes for perfume. What exactly are you doing? Seriously, the irony was thick enough to cut with a knife. She was looking for signs of cheating while having hickeys. She wasn't even trying to hide. Stop lying to me, Lord. Sabrina arrived at the house the next day, while Lana was out with one of her guys. I happened to stop by. Ethan, she said, entering without waiting for an invitation. What do we need to talk about? I inquired, not bothering to move off the couch. About what you are doing to Lana. She's a disaster. I actually laughed. What am I doing to Lana Nefer? That is an impressive sum. She intended to improve your relationship by adding spice. Not so you could pursue the first piece of ass that expressed interest. Interesting. Sabrina sat uninvited. Lana cares about you. She's only trying to find herself in other men's beds. Do not be crude. This was supposed to be a mutual learning experience. Mutual? I repeated. So, why is it a problem that I attended a neighborhood barbecue? Your objectives were not pure. You tried to injure Lana by eating a hamburger. Sabrina breathed deeply. You are being purposely thick. Lana knows Claire has had feelings for you for years. It is insulting. And Lana's behavior toward CrossFit Blake is not disrespectful. That is different. That is merely physical. There is no history there. Same BS. Different messenger. I stood up. Sabrina, with all due respect, which is none. This is between me and Lana. You urged her to discover herself and open our marriage. Do not be surprised if things don't go exactly as planned. That night, Lana took a new strategy. She came home wearing next to nothing and attempted to charm me. I was not interested. What's wrong? She inquired. I thought we could reconnect. I'm not in the mood, I replied. Is this about her? She shouted, the seductive performance disappearing in an instant. No, it's about me not being in the mood. You're punishing me. I agreed to everything you requested. 4 months into our open marriage, I was chronicling everything. Every dispute is around her double standards. Every time she returned home late from being with another guy, she spent every dollar from our joint account on her new lifestyle, including clothes, restaurants, and hotel rooms. I had a separate email account that she was unaware of, where I forwarded all of our text conversations, as well as screenshots of her social media, where she posts vague quotes about finding herself and exploring new connections while complaining about trust issues and emotional betrayal when it comes to me. The mental detachment was total. I gazed at her as if she were a stranger now. One night approximately 3 months in, I arrived home unexpectedly early from a route. I walked in to find Lana and Sabrina sitting at our kitchen table, a bottle of seltzer water between them. Planning what sounded like a financial execution. Sabrina said, I just need to figure out how to get your name on the deed. Or at least demonstrated that you have made a major contribution to its value. I moved away quietly, then made a show of entering loudly a minute later. They quickly moved topics, but the harm had been done. These weren't just two sisters looking into modern relationship structures. This was an organized effort to seize everything I owned. My lawyer was preparing a strong case. In our state, adultery is not a major factor in divorce, but financial irresponsibility and abandonment are, and Lana checked both boxes. She quit her job, contributed nothing to the household, and squandered our money. Meanwhile, I paid the mortgage on my premarital home, all of the bills, and kept up with the upkeep and cleaning. I kept my cool when it came to abandoning my marital duties. Did not confront her. I didn't upset the boat too much, just calmly moved forward, and prepared. Meanwhile, my bodily metamorphosis progressed steadily. My confidence had skyrocketed compared to where I had started. Clothes fit better and posture improved. Even my employer acknowledged the favorable changes. Whatever's going on with you? He asked once. Keep doing it. You're looking good. Working better than ever. Claire had been an unexpected ally, not romantically, but as someone who could see through Lana's lies. She was at the coffee shop yesterday. Claire texted me while on the way to Cincinnati with this guy acting all coupley. She then had the audacity to throw me a filthy look when she noticed me. Lana was leading a double life. When it was convenient, she was a devoted wife, but when it wasn't, she was a single party girl. I also placed security cameras in the shared sections of the house, which was perfectly legal because it was my premarital property. I did not inform Lana about them. They caught her bringing guys over while I was on the road, which she had clearly stated she wouldn't do. When she first established the rules, she said that our bed was our space. That rule seemed to solely apply to me. The cameras also captured her digging through my desk drawers, inspecting my mail, and looking for heaven knows what. Financial paperwork was most likely evidence of my own transgressions, which she could use against me. I also overheard her and Sabrina disparaging me in my own living room, plotting how to deal with me and discussing what they would do with the house when the time came, as if it were ever hers. I just need to keep him pacified until I figure out my next move, Lana told me. Blake's fun, but he's not exactly husband material, and I need to be smart about this house. It's worth a fortune now with the market the way it is. They went on to discuss how she can claim half ownership of the house despite it being my premarital asset. Sabrina suggested, saying she'd made major contributions to its upkeep and improvement, which was absurd given she'd never even changed a light bulb. I sent the recording to my attorney. He was gleeful. "This is gold," he explained. "Clear evidence of intent to defraud. Keep recording." I'd done it. Every conversation, conflict and lie is documented, saved and submitted to my lawyer. Meanwhile, my departure strategy was coming together. I'd reserved a storage container for my most valuable possessions, including family heirlooms, documents, and the tiny gun collection my grandfather had bequeathed me. Anything that couldn't be replaced, or that I didn't want to lose during the inevitable chaos of separation. I transferred approximately 60% of our joint savings to my own account. Not enough to be deemed concealing assets, but enough to guarantee I wasn't left high and dry if she attempted to empty out the accounts. I was waiting for my chance with Lana, and it was coming soon. 6 months into our open marriage, things had reached a breaking point. Lana was becoming sloppy, going out all night, barely bothering to lie about her location, and spending money like water. I had wisely transferred the majority of our shared funds to my personal account, leaving just enough for bills and necessities, as well as a large cushion she could use for her breakfasts and hotel stays. Just enough to avert suspicion. She hadn't checked her balance in months. She was too preoccupied with discovering herself to check at bank statements or inquire about where the money came from because she wasn't working. Then one night, everything changed. I returned home after a 3-day haul to find Lana and CrossFit Blake drinking in our living room, looking really relaxed. "Ethan," she said, faking brightness. "You remember Blake?" Blake asked, trying to keep his cool. "Hey man, it's good to finally meet you properly." He was exactly what I expected. Mid-30s. Pricey haircut. The type of muscles that result from focusing on mirror muscles while missing leg day. Wearing one of those $80 tech fabric shirts that are really just polyester. It was horrible to see Blake there with his feet up on my couch. Watching him pour my birthday log into a solo cup. That was the last straw. I set down my duffel bag. Lana waved dismissively. "You're drinking my Lavalin." "Don't be petty. I bought that bottle." She hadn't. It was a birthday present from my brother, which she had seen me open last month. But it was not the goal. "You brought him to our house," I replied plainly. "That was one of your rules. No bringing people into our house." "I think we're past that now," she answered with an eye roll. "It's been 6 months. The rules have evolved, just like Claire." Blake looked between us, sensing the tension. "Maybe I should go." "No, stay," Lana begged, placing her hand on his arm. "Ethan's just being dramatic. This is my house too." Something in me snapped at that exact moment. I was finished. "Actually," I said quietly, "it's not." "Excuse me?" Lana's eyes furrowed. "This house isn't yours. It never was. I bought it before we were married. You've contributed nothing to the mortgage, taxes, or upkeep. Legally, you're a tenant at best." Her expression was tense. "How dare you? We're married. What's yours is mine." "That's not how premarital assets work in this state," I told you. "But I'm sure Sabrina told you that when you were discussing how to take my house when the time comes." Lana's face turned white. Blake seemed to want to disappear through the floor. "What are you talking about?" she stuttered. "I heard you. You and Sabrina are planning your next move. Discussing how to claim my house. Calling me a sucker." "You were spying on me?" she whimpers. "Not spying. Protecting my assets from someone who's explicitly stated her intention to take them." Blake stood up. "I'm leaving. This is not what you said it was, Lana." She ignored him and focused totally on me. "You've been planning this all along. Agreeing to open marriage just to trap me." "Trap you into what? Sleeping with other men?" Having your sister over to plot against me? Bringing your buddy to my house to drink my whiskey? Yeah. What an elaborate trap. Blake had already started walking towards the entrance. He's a smart guy. Don't you dare leave, Lana exclaimed after him. This isn't about you, he said before disappearing. At the very least he was able to recognize a show when he saw it. Lana stepped on me. You've ruined everything. This was working fine until you got all possessive and weird. Working fine for who exactly? You get to screw around while I work 60 hours a week to pay for everything. You get to bring men to my house while I can't even talk to a neighbor without being accused of cheating. That's your definition of working fine. I never cheated. We had an agreement. An agreement you unilaterally changed whenever it suited you. She attempted a different angle, tears welling up. I just needed to find myself, Ethan. I was lost. This was never about not loving you. Save it, I told him. I've watched you find yourself for 6 months. Turns out what you found was that you like screwing other guys while having a stable provider at home. Well, that arrangement is over. What does that mean? She inquired, feeling tired. It means I'm done. I've been done for months. I've just been waiting for the right time. The right time for what? Her tone had become raspy. To end this farce of a marriage. She looked at me, her expression hardening. Fine, if that's what you want, but don't think I'm walking away with nothing. I know my rights. Half this house is mine, half your pension, half of everything. I smiled. We'll see about that. That night I stayed at a motel. By dawn, I was on the phone with my attorney. It's time, I informed him. She brought one of her guys to my house drinking my stuff. He'd been prepared. Papers were prepared, and everything was structured to maximize my position while minimizing her accusations. I went back to the house to get another change of clothes before hitting the road again. Lana was waiting as if she'd been standing there all night, with red eyes, an untidy bun, and Sabrina lurking close like a personal attack dog. They were suddenly all about civility. Lana wanted to discuss future actions. Apparently she and Sabrina had already begun looking into divorce counsel. The plan was to do it amicably, in their words, not mine. Sabrina had the audacity to say that Lana deserved at least 60 or 70% of everything because I was plainly breaking the marital contract. Pure hallucination with no legal basis. However, they both nodded as if it were established law. Lana acted as if she deserved a share of everything. She claimed she contributed by being present and emotionally supportive. The entire script. Sabrina insisted that Lana had been the backbone of the household. I did not even argue. There's no point. The reality was simple. She did not clean, labor, or maintain anything. Every time I returned home from the hall, it looked like a crime scene. I took care of everything, including the cleaning, billing, and yard work. Name one thing you did in the last 6 months, I asked gently, zipping up my duffel. Silence. She couldn't recall a single useful act she'd done in the previous 6 months. Her defense consisted of emotional work, and nebulous crap about presents and vibes. Here's what will happen, I said. I'm going to my planned haul. When I return in 3 days, I expect you to be making plans to move out. What? Lana said. I'm not going anywhere. This is also my house. It is not, and I believe the courts will agree with me. Sabrina replied smugly. We'll see about that. My friend Lauren is a divorce lawyer. Wives receive half regardless of whose name appears on the deed. Your acquaintance Lauren sounds like a bad lawyer, I said. But hey, hire her. Should make things easy for me. I left them both standing there, sure that they had all the cards. The misconception was nearly sad. 3 days on the road allowed me time to plan for what was to come. My lawyer filed the divorce papers, which detailed Lana's abandonment of marital duties, financial irresponsibility, and plain statements of intent to rob me of my premarital assets. He also moved for an emergency hearing over the house's occupancy, citing security footage of Lana bringing another guy home as proof that her continued presence would be harmful to the petitioner's health and property. When I returned from my hallway, Lana and Sabrina were waiting with their own document, a scribbled list of requests. Ethan admits 50% ownership of the house, pays $3,000 per month in spousal support for 5 years, transfers 50% of his 401k to Lana, covers all of Lana's legal bills, and provides Lana with health insurance for 3 years after the divorce. This is our starting position, Sabrina remarked, as if she were a hotshot negotiator. We're willing to be reasonable if you are. I studied the list and returned it. Yeah, nope. Lana responded. What do you mean, no? That's not how this works, Sabrina hissed, her face flushing. You think you can just throw Lana away after she gave you the best years of her life? You're pathetic. Actually, This is how things work. I took out my own envelope and gave it to Lana. She opened it, her hand shaking slightly as she read, and her expression changed from surprise to horror to rage. "What is this BS?" she demanded. "These are lies. They're all documented. You've been served," I replied quietly. Her voice rose an octave. "You've been recording me. This is perfectly legal and very informative, especially your conversations with Sabrina about taking over my house when the time comes." Sabrina snatched the papers and frantically scanned them. "This won't hold up. The house is marital property regardless of when you bought it. Not in this state, not with a documented history of financial separation and her contribution of exactly zero to its mortgage or upkeep." Lana was close in tears as she said, "You can't kick me out of my own home. Now it never was yours, and yes, I can and will. I'll fight this," she was about to say. "I'll tell everyone what you did and how you tricked me." "Go ahead," she said, crying. She had polished those manipulative sobs over the years. They used to make me back down, apologize, and give in. Not anymore. "You have until tomorrow afternoon to pack your essentials," I told you. "The court will most likely grant you a few weeks to remove the rest of your belongings. Supervised." "This isn't over," Sabrina growled, wrapping her arm around Lana. "You're right," I agreed, "but it's closer than you think." The judge found in my favor, as expected. The evidence was overwhelming. Lana was granted 30 days to remove her stuff, but she could not dwell in the house while the divorce was pending. She moved in with Sabrina, who soon became tired of having her sister as a regular house guest. It turns out that living with someone who contributes nothing isn't as enjoyable when you're the one paying the bills. Within 2 weeks, they were frequently fighting. My lawyer had connected me with a financial expert who assisted me in protecting my assets during the divorce. We chronicled every penny I earned, every investment I made, and every payment I paid during our marriage, building a solid case that Lana had no claim to any of it. After Lauren evaluated the facts and declined to take the case, Lana's counsel, a court-appointed attorney rather than Sabrina's friend Lauren, encouraged her to accept the settlement offer my lawyer had prepared. The house is still mine as a premarital asset. I maintain my 401k and pension intact. I do not pay any spousal support. She keeps the car that was in her name. She receives a one-time payment of $10,000, which is significantly less than she desired, but more than she deserved. She originally resisted, believing she could obtain half of everything. However, as the evidence accumulated and her position weakened, she eventually capitulated. The divorce was finalized 4 months later. When she arrived to gather the remainder of her belongings, she tried one last Hail Mary. Her makeup was smudged. She looked like she hadn't slept in a week and her hair was tangled. "I'm having a breakdown, bun." Sabrina had reportedly thrown her out. They had apparently been fighting non-stop. CrossFit Blake ignored her. "I still love you, Ethan," she continued, standing in the foyer of what was now officially my house. "We could start over. I've learned my lesson." "No, Lana. That's not fair. I made a mistake." "Goodbye, Lana," I murmured, closing the door as she walked away. That was 6 months ago. The divorce is now final. I saved everything that Blakered. My house, truck, and dignity. I saw Claire at the hardware store last week. After that we had coffee. Nothing major. Just a discussion. She inquired if I was ready to date again. I informed her that I intend to remain unmarried for the time being. Life goes on better than that. My parents gave my room to my brother's pregnant girlfriend and shoved me into the garage. After 3 years of paying for everything, I walked away. I'm 26, work in construction management, and I was today's age when I realized what family meant. I've been carrying these folks for 3 years straight. Mortgage, utilities, groceries, and repairs are all on me. Dad has been on disability since his back went out at the warehouse. Mom cannot leave the house without experiencing anxiety. My brother earned a PhD in job hopping and unemployment benefits. Growing up, I was always the trustworthy and responsible one. While my brother was off getting high behind the Dairy Queen, I was working summers on Dad's roofing crew. I learned early on that work meant money, and money meant freedom. I attended community college for construction management while living at home. We saved every dime. Had a standard plan. Graduate, find a nice job, move out, and start my life. Then life occurred. Dad's injury happened just as I was ready to sign a lease on my own place. Had the deposit saved. The first month's rent is ready and the boxes are packed. A single phone call altered everything. Dad is crying on the phone. They cried because they were about to lose their home. Mom was having severe panic episodes and was unable to function. My brother is nowhere to be found, probably passed out on a friend's couch. So I unpacked those things, used my apartment money to pay their mortgage, and told myself it was only temporary, until Dad got back on his feet, Mom stabilized, and my brother grew the hell up. 3 years later, we're still waiting. Anyway, the other night, I was eating dodgy Chinese takeout when my mother called. She only calls after someone has died or when she needs something. Nobody had died. Your brother is coming home with his girlfriend. She said she was pregnant. I'm stirring my lo mein and waiting for the catch. They will need the bedroom. You can have the garage for a time. Not asking but telling. The garage where regular people keep lawnmowers and Christmas decorations. Concrete flooring, one electrical outlet, and whatever weather decides to blow through the cracks. How long? I asked. Isn't it just temporary? Everything has been temporary for 3 years. Except for the bills I've been paying every month. Dad's disability checks, Mom's incapacity to work, and my brother's breaks between being fired from dead-end jobs have all been temporary. I answered, all right, and hung up because what else could I say? Start a disagreement and argue with Mom about fairness. That isn't how our family operates. My brother has always been the golden child. The one who is rescued, accommodated, and pardoned. Years ago I realized that pushing back only gets you characterized as the tough one, the selfish one, the one who doesn't understand family loyalty. So I said, okay, and began performing math. 4 adults are about to live on what I supply while I relocate to a concrete box with a space heater. The truth is, following what happened to Dad, I took over everything. The entire house runs on my wages, while they live rent-free. What made matters worse was that I was brilliant at it. Too good. They made it look easy. Mortgage payments are always on time. Fridge is always supplied. Utilities never go off. They had forgotten what struggle was like because I had absorbed it all. Became a human shock absorber after every financial setback. Now I'm about to lose my bedroom because my brother can't figure out birth control. 26 years old, decent income, going to sleep in a garage because family planning appears to imply planning to be someone else's issue. That night, I sat in my room, which would soon become theirs, and took a good look around. The furniture I purchased, the computer set up for work, and bathroom renovations I completed on weekends are all about to become the property of my unemployed brother and whatever her name is. I started calling her Princess in my head. Never bothered to learn her real name. So I started looking at apartments online. I told myself I was just browsing. But something had shifted. It wasn't about the bedroom anymore. This was almost 3 years of being viewed as a resource, rather than a person. They arrived in the afternoon. My brother arrives with Princess, their entire life packed into 2 rubbish bags. Dude doesn't own proper luggage, but he believes he's prepared for parenting. She's probably 22. Has that entitled expression young ladies acquire when they believe motherhood makes them unique. Before she even unpacks, she is already discussing nursery colors and baby names. She goes in, already calculating where she will store her belongings in my room. Starts measuring walls with her phone and discussing where the crib will go. My brother settles down on the couch, telling about how grateful they are. As if simply showing up is a significant accomplishment. The princess, standing in my bedroom doorway, exclaims, "This is perfect. The natural light is ideal for the newborn. My natural lighting in my bedroom for their newborn." I didn't speak to them. I just gathered my essentials and headed to the garage. I left everything else in the room save my gaming equipment. Let them believe they've hit the jackpot. They'd soon find out how much stuff costs when it can't be maintained. The garage was precisely what you would expect. Concrete floor, no insulation, and a single outlet that very likely violates building rules. An ancient couch that most likely hosts its own ecosystem. Because the window does not close, whatever weather decides to visit also becomes my weather. Set up my sleeping bag on the infected couch. I plugged in the space heater that seemed like it was about to die and sat there in the dark, listening to them upstairs moving my belongings, getting comfy in my place, and watching Netflix. He could hear his girlfriend squealing over the walk-in closet. I created a walk-in closet last year, which expanded what was formerly a conventional closet. I spent 3 weekends building it out, hanging drywall, and adding shelving for myself. Now it serves as storage for Walmart maternity outfits. That's when it struck me. This was not a momentary situation for them. They'd found their new mark. Their next way to evade real life. And I had been enabling it for 3 years. Hell no. That night, I began making concrete plans, looking at flats and calculating how much it would cost to get myself out. They were unaware of certain bank accounts. Automatic payment. I could stop utilities under my name and have them disappear. Week 1 was subtle. They were still on a high from their new arrangement. I didn't detect the changes. I stopped being helpful. When you've been everyone's go-to problem solver for 3 years, that's very radical. Monday morning, Princess approaches me as she heads to work. The coffee machine is not operating properly. I stare at her, then at the coffee maker, back at her, say nothing, and walk away. All I could think of was who informed her I was the one who fixed things in this house before approaching me like that. I used to be. I'd spend 10 minutes identifying the problem, cleaning the mineral deposits, and teaching how to care for it. But not anymore. She can figure out why the water tastes like instant coffee and drink it. Not my problem. Tuesday, Mom complains that the kitchen faucet is dripping. I'm reading the news on my phone at the table. She repeats it louder, believing I didn't hear. I did. I don't care anymore. That faucet has been dripping for 2 weeks. It used to drive me insane, so I fixed it right away. Install new washers and tighten the packing nut. Done in 5 minutes. I don't mind if it drips until the basement floods. That day, I spent my lunch break searching for flats online. Everything excellent was well out of my price range when I was supporting 4 people. Studio flats were renting for what I thought was a decent price back when I only had to worry about myself. It made me understand how deep in the hole I was. I returned home and discovered my brother's automobile, held together by rust and prayer, starting to produce grinding noises in the driveway. He stands there, hood up, staring at the engine, waiting for divine intervention. Do you have any idea what the sound is? Expensive, I said. He laughs, expecting for me to come diagnose and repair it for free. That is how it has always worked. His automobile breaks down. He'd invite me to spend my Saturday under the hood with my tools, resolving his issues. Now he doesn't even need to call. I'm right here. I move past him into the garage, leaving him standing there and waiting. Friday was the crown treasure. The washing machine died in the middle of its cycle. I just quit. Water sat there and clothing floated. Princess tries again, finds me in the garage doing push-ups because what else can you do in a concrete box? The washer is broken. Yes, it is full of water and clothing. That sounds right. Can you? Nope. She stares at me, waiting for the traditional script in which I get up, get tools, and spend my Friday night repairing their problems. Probably a faulty pump or a clogged drain line. The part costs $40 and requires 2 hours of work. That guy has died. I killed him personally. What should we do? She asked. I knew my mother had told her to ask me. Adult things. Figure it out, I said. They ended up calling a repairman, who charged them $200 to install the same item that I would have installed for free. The princess complained about the expense while sitting in my room chair wearing my old bedroom slippers. Week 2, the house begins to show signs of serious neglect. It's amazing how quickly things fall apart once you stop maintaining them. The leaky faucet turns into a stream. The toilet runs continuously. That water bill is going to be enjoyable. The space heater in the garage goes completely, leaving me with only my sleeping bag and whatever warmth anger gives. My brother observed the shift. He tried to bond over coffee one night. His treat, which he describes as a cappuccino, compensates for snatching my bedroom. We settle on the back porch, and he tries to strike up a discussion about work, sports, or anything else normal. What's been going on with you lately? He asked. No deal. You appear different. I am precisely the same. Just not your maintenance man. Come on, guy, we are family. Family? That's what people say when they want anything for free, I replied bluntly, knowing full well that he won't be offended since he's not self-aware or gets quiet while processing it. I know you've been helping us. Helping out? I laugh. That is what you call it. Helping out, like periodically chipping in $20 for pizza. Do you understand what I mean? I understand exactly what you mean. You mean I've been paying for your entire existence while you've done nothing, and that's simply helping out. We drink quietly till he gives up and goes back inside. Return to my room. Returning to his pregnant lover and his rent-free lifestyle. Week 3 is when things become interesting. The water heater begins producing horror movie sounds. Mom cornered me in the kitchen on Saturday morning. The hot water is not working. I pour coffee. Say nothing. Have you heard me? She said, yep. Are you going to look into it? Nope. Why not? Because I'm not a superhero. I am a tenant. A garage tenant. She seemed to be hurt as she discussed how we are all struggling here. You are struggling. I'm now living in a garage. Sediment has probably accumulated in the water heater. Flushing is required, as is possibly a replacement heating element. A $100 job if you know what you're doing. But I'm done knowing what I'm doing to solve other people's problems. Dad takes the manly approach that night. Catch me on my way back from the gym. Yes, I joined the gym. I needed a place to shower with true hot water. We need to talk, son. Okay, you are evolving. I know it's stressful, but your brother requires assistance. We are family. I've been helping for 3 years. Mortgage, utilities, groceries, repairs, everything. This is different, he explained. You're correct. This is my stop. You cannot just stop. Pay attention to me. I walked away. He wanted to protest. But what would he say? That I am obligated to support their life while sleeping in a garage. That it is acceptable for one person to carry 4 adults indefinitely. He knows he has nothing. The house felt strange. There is tension everywhere except in the garage. My concrete palace is quiet. Cold as hell but calm. At the very least, no one asks me anything out here. Nobody expects miracles. No one interprets my quiet as cooperation to resolve their latest dilemma. Upstairs they are realizing what they have lost. Things are breaking without their free maintenance person. Bills are coming due without an automatic payment mechanism. 4 adults attempting to survive on 2 disability checks and any extra coin my brother earns between jobs. I knew they were spinning because I overheard my mother and brother talking in the kitchen. Their voices carry down here since this room is insulated like a cardboard box. My brother says he's been acting strangely recently. There is a real attitude problem. I've noticed, Mom says. Since we asked him to take over the garage temporarily, you'd think we were asking him to sleep outside, right? It's not like we're kicking him out. We're simply making place for the baby. Some folks simply cannot tolerate change. He has always been tough when things don't go his way. Mom stated, I'm listening to this conversation about my attitude problem while sitting on a moldy couch wearing a jacket because there's no heat. The attitude problem of the person who has been paying their mortgage for 3 years. The next morning, Mom approaches me in the kitchen before I leave for work. I'm getting coffee and attempting to get out the door when she blocks my way. We should chat about your attitude lately. My attitude? What? Mom. Am I a teen? You should be grateful we allowed you to stay at all. She continues to make things difficult. It'll be a few nights in the garage. Stop being selfish. I'm holding my coffee mug, gazing at this woman who hasn't paid a bill in 3 years and urging me to be thankful for sleeping in the unheated garage of the house I keep running. The golden child inherits my room, and I should be thankful for concrete and mold. You are correct, I say. I should feel grateful. After they realized there was no other option but to deal with it, I noticed them rationing items. Cheaper toilet paper, generic food, and lights that switch off when people leave the room. During that period I relocated my tools to a storage unit across town, began buying groceries only for myself and storing them in a cooler in the garage, and set up mail forwarding to a P.O. box. Utility disconnections are slated for the end of the month. And finally signed a lease on a nice 1-bedroom apartment across town, 2nd floor, proper heating, my own bathroom, and a balcony overlooking the park. It's crazy how desirable basic dignity appears after sleeping in a garage. The apartment hunt was quite relaxing. Every place I looked at, I considered how much it would cost to keep just for myself. Utilities for 1 person, groceries for 1 person, and cable fees split equally. The mathematics was amazing. What I'd been spending on 4 people would provide me with enough money to live comfortably alone. The house was progressively disintegrating. The water heater died totally. No hot water for anyone. Toilets are still running, squandering hundreds of gallons every day. Kitchen faucets began flooding the basement every several days. Surprisingly, my brother got a job at a grocery shop, but he only lasted 11 days before being dismissed for phoning in sick 3 times. Princesses were becoming bigger, more demanding, and more expensive. I began to get cravings that required quick treatment and my gas money. We need pickles and ice cream. She had announced it at 9 p.m. I told her, sounds like your problem, but I'm pregnant, not my child. He's your nephew, and you're being extremely unsupportive. I'm being very honest. She'd storm off to get my brother, who'd figure out how to get to the store without a functional vehicle. Usually meant begging for rides from neighbors or walking 3 miles. I also saw they were eating a lot of ramen noodles. Everything is a discount brand. The princess is moaning about being unable to purchase prenatal vitamins. My brother is trying to fix his car using YouTube videos and prayer. Mom and Dad were learning how much it costs to manage a family. After 3 years of me handling everything, they had forgotten basic math. Mortgage payment, $1,400. Another 300 people lack access to basic services. They cannot afford groceries for 4 adults. Forget it. And I was having a good time. Not gonna lie. I couldn't keep that smirk off my face. Then Dad sought to hold a finance discussion one evening. We called it a family talk about shared duties. Set up at the kitchen table with a notepad and calculator. We need to discuss expenses. He started. We do. I suggested that everyone give something. I've been contributing for 3 years. But with the baby on the way. Not my baby. I said that for the millionth time. That is not the point. Then what's the point? He scrambled with his notepad, searching for words that would make this my problem again. We are family. We should aid one another. I did assist. I paid for everything, while you lived for free. Now I'm finished. You cannot just forsake us. I am not abandoning anyone. I'm sleeping in the garage. You are the one who abandoned me first. The princess perked up from the couch. We have never asked you to pay for everything. I turned to face her. Really look at her. You never asked because you didn't have to. It's just happened. And once it began, you ensured that it continued. That is not fair, she said. Fair. You are sitting in my chair in my room, wearing my bathrobe, whining about bills and a house that I pay for. Let's talk about fairness. Mom began crying. I'm not sure why exactly. The princess huffed up the stairs. My brother merely sat there, perhaps calculating how many packs of cigarettes he could buy if he avoided the payments. That's when Dad took out a piece of paper. I've been running numbers. If everyone contributes equally. Dad, stop, I replied. Please hear me out. If we divided everything 4 ways, I said, stop. It would only cost about $600 each. He continued. I was finished with that. I cut him off. Dad, look around. Look at this house. Look at your unemployed son and his pregnant girlfriend. Look at your wife, who is unable to work. Take a look at yourself on disability. Where is 600 times 4 meant to come from? And let me tell you, the silence was lovely. Pure mathematics cuts through 3 years of delusions. After that life-changing meeting, I began moving things out one by one, nothing evident, nothing they'd notice. Important documents, essential tools, and anything else I needed. They abandoned the furniture, the television, and anything else on which they had grown dependent. I started working overtime to save every dime. Not because I needed it. Supporting one person is easy after supporting 4. But I wanted options. I wanted to walk away clean. I wanted to be able to disappear totally if necessary. I had planned to leave permanently that morning. I dropped by early to get the last of my belongings. That's when I witnessed something that changed everything. A college student, maybe 20, was standing on the driveway with my brother. They were headed to the garage. My brother was gesticulating as if he were showing off premium real estate. I parked down the street and watched. My brother is giving this youngster a comprehensive tour of my garage, highlighting the electrical outlet as a premium feature, displaying the concrete floor, and even presenting the broken space heater that left me cold for weeks. Rustic living spaces. I heard him say, ideal for the student budget. Kid was nodding, taking pictures with his phone, and appearing engaged. My brother has that salesman smile he employs when he's trying to trick someone. He used the same smile when he borrowed $2,000 from me 3 years ago for necessary auto repairs, which became a down payment for a jet ski he sold 2 months later. The child inquired about parking, access to the house, and whether utilities were included. My brother responds as if he owns the place, discussing joint kitchen privileges and laundry access, and making commitments with resources that are not his. I walked over casually. What's going on here? The child seems confused. My brother appeared to have been caught red-handed. He claimed he was just showing him the space. What amount of space? The garage is for rent. I looked at him like, what the actual hell? This absolute piece was attempting to rent out my garage, the concrete box he'd sentenced me to, the area I'd been sleeping in while paying for his existence. How much are you asking? He said it would be $450 per month, including utilities. $450 for a garage without insulation, 1 outlet, and a broken space heater. The same garage that wasn't adequate for him and his pregnant girlfriend is now considered premium enough to charge rent. The kid was pulling out his phone, most likely to make a Venmo deposit. My brother was mentally counting money, deciding which video games he'd buy with his new paycheck. I clearly could not let this happen. I stood between them. Walk away, kid. This isn't legal, I explained. What do you mean? He does not own this property, cannot rent what is not his. But he said dash. He says several things. None of these are true. Do you want to live in a garage? Find one that is available for rent. The boy looked between us, understood he had entered into family turmoil, and bolted. Smart youngster. My brother began babbling about the need for income for the infant under temporary conditions. You threw me out of my bedroom and put me in a garage, I said, now you're trying to rent that garage for a profit. It isn't like that. So what is it like? You are leaving regardless. How did you know that? He shut up, realizing he had spoken too much. Someone had gone through my belongings and found things missing. Instead of asking me about it like a normal person, he chose to capitalize on it. I attempted to calm myself down before smashing his face. You went through my belongings. Mom discovered several items were missing, therefore you decided to rent out my current living area. He scoffed. This isn't your space. Every month I pay the mortgage on this house, 3 years. That does not mean. It means everything. The beautiful part was his logic. The garage wasn't suitable for him and Princess, but it could be rented out to a college student for a profit. They required my bedroom for comfort, but my misery presented a financial opportunity. I left him standing and went inside. I found my parents in the kitchen, having coffee I'd paid for in a house I'd kept running, talking about their day as if everything was normal. So, your son wants to rent out the garage. I casually dropped it. Apparently, they had no idea what their golden baby was doing. Mom seemed puzzled. Who is it rented to? Random college student. $450 a month for the space he put me in. Dad's face changed. He asked, "What?" I told him. The same concrete box that wasn't good enough for his pregnant girlfriend is suddenly premium real estate when there's money involved. The truth struck them hard. They'd been so intent on helping my brother with his pregnancy that they'd forgotten who kept the house running. Now, their unemployed kid was attempting to profit from space that belonged to the person who paid for everything. Dad's eyes widened as he considered what losing me would mean. No mortgage payments, no utilities, and no safety net. They had no savings, nowhere to go, and no backup plan. That's, Dad started, and then stopped. There's no good way to complete that phrase. Entrepreneurial, I suggested. Creative issue solution and inventive revenue generation. That idiot is trying to illegally rent out your property, he added, his words strangled. If you contact the cops or a lawyer. He didn't finish the statement, but I could see him losing control. After 3 years of letting me transport them, his unemployed son was deliberately committing fraud, which may land them all in legal problems while also destroying the one person keeping them off the streets. Where is he? Dad asked. Driveway. Probably posted the listing online already. Mom shook her head. He would not. He would. He did. He is. Dad stood up, and for the first time in months I saw genuine rage on his face. Not at me, the circumstances, or my brother, but at himself for allowing things to get this far. This is your house. You pay for it. We have been ... He trailed off, trying for words that didn't seem too parasitic. Taking advantage. The phrase you're looking for is taking advantage, I explained. Mom began crying again. However, these were not manipulative tears. These were tears of awareness. The kind that occurs when you see yourself clearly and dislike the view. We never intended for things to turn out this way. Nobody intended for it to come to this, yet here we are. We assumed it was temporary. We figured we'd get back on our feet. When? It's been 3 years. When precisely were you going to get back on your feet? There was no plan, so they all shut up. There had never been a plan. They simply found a solution that worked for them and determined it was permanent. Dad went for the door. I will tackle this. No, I stopped him. I will manage it. I handle everything else around here. I came back outside to see my brother still in the driveway, now on his phone. Probably researching tenant rights or something, trying to figure out how to make this work. Perhaps he might contact other college students and start a bidding war for my concrete palace. Get off the property, I said. What? He got taken off guard. Get off my property now. You cannot just. I can. I do. I am. Dad and Mom had followed me outside. The princess arrived in the doorway, lured by the ruckus. The entire family gathered for the last show. This is absurd, my brother exclaimed, looking to my parents for support. Are you serious about kicking me out over this? I am not kicking you out yet. But you're not going to rent my garage to anyone. This is not your garage. Everything here is mine. The house, the garage, the food in the fridge, and the electricity you need to charge your phone. All mine, paid for by me, and your visitors. The princess decided to join in from the doorway. We have rights. You have nothing. No lease, rental agreement, or rights. You are here because I allowed it. You cannot evict a pregnant woman. Her voice crackled. I am not evicting anyone. I am prohibiting your partner from illegally subletting space that he does not own. Dad eventually spoke up. She's correct about the ownership. This is his house. My brother seemed betrayed. Are you on his side? He shouted at my father. There are no sides, there are just facts. He pays for everything. We don't contribute anything. Now you're attempting to profit from his generosity. It isn't like that. Then describe it. Explain how renting out my sleeping place for profit while I pay for your life is not the same thing. My brother began stammering about duty, contributing to household expenses, and attempting to help. All he saw was an opportunity to profit from my pain and seized it. Here's what actually happened, I explained. You learned that I was going. Instead of asking why or attempting to resolve the situation, you chose to monetize my replacement. Rent out your garage to someone else. Keep the money. Continue living for free. That is not. I cut him off. That's right. You plan to collect rent from a college student while not paying anything to actual expenses. The garage generates revenue, but the mortgage is still paid by magic. Silence. Even the princess had nothing to say. I watched them all stand there, despairing. No management skills, no brain cells. I suggested 3 possibilities. Are you ready? Everyone nodded. Option 1. Do you want to stay? Fine. Market rate, rent, utilities, and groceries are all split equally. Each month. We cannot afford. Option 2. 60 days to locate alternative arrangements. I'll even cover the cost of moving. It'll be a clean break, with no hard feelings. 60 days is not enough. The girlfriend attempted to argue. I shut her off. Option 3. I depart tonight. Stop paying your mortgage. Stop paying the utilities. You figure it out. The house will fall into foreclosure in 3 months. You'll all be on the street by Christmas. The math was sinking in. 4-way split on a $1,400 mortgage, including utilities and food. They'd require around $600 each month. Adults who work can make it happen. Impossible given their current circumstances. Could we think about it? Mom asked. You can think for 60 seconds. I have someplace to be. Dad stared at Mom. Mom gazed at my brother. My brother stared at the princess. Princess peered at her phone, possibly calculating the cost of apartments in their pricing range. Mom eventually mentioned the 60-day period. We'll take the 60 days. Good decision, I remarked. My brother was not done. Still maintained the entrepreneurial spirit. We are family. Family? You put your pregnant girlfriend into my bedroom, locked me in a garage, and then attempted to rent the garage for profit. That is not family. He literally said, that is a slumlord. And I am not joking. I tried to help with bills by pocketing rent money. How does that serve anyone other than you? The princess pulled his arm from the doorway. Let's simply go. But I wasn't done. 3 years of swallowed words were approaching. Do you know what the family does? The family expresses gratitude. The family contributes. Family members do not treat one another as servants while living for free. We are grateful. No, you do not. You expected it. You felt entitled to it. You became so accustomed to my paying for everything that you forgot it wasn't normal. Dad stepped forward. He's correct. We forgot. I forgot. 3 years of having you hold us as we. He shrugged. But I was injured 3 years ago. What is your excuse now? That silenced him. Mom was sobbing. My brother appeared to be about to strike something, but he was aware that I would strike back even harder. The princess was probably planning which parent to move in with next. I repeated it for 60 days. Starting tomorrow, I'll pay the bills once more. After that, you are on your own. Where shall we go? Mom asked. That's the beauty of being an adult. You gotta figure it out. I walked back to my pickup. We're done with the conversation. We're done with the drama. I am done being their solution. But my brother had one more shot. You're going to regret this. When the baby arrives and we require assistance, you will regret burning this bridge. I turned around for the last time. I did not burn anything. I just quit being the bridge. And that was all. 2 months later, I am writing this from my actual residence. The second-floor flat has genuine heat. I have my own bathroom, bedroom with a lockable door, balcony overlooking the park where I have coffee every morning without being asked to repair anything. The pleasure of minimal solitude feels different after sleeping in a garage. The family discovered a site, a 2-bedroom duplex across town. Rent is approximately $900 split 4 ways. It's manageable when everyone helps. My brother is working evenings at a warehouse. The same kind of job Dad had before his back gave up. It turns out he can retain a job when his life depends on it. Funny how motivation works. The princess had the baby. Healthy child. 10 fingers and 10 toes. There is no chance of me babysitting. They named him after our grandfather. Most likely in an attempt to win family points. Mom acquired a part-time job at a craft store. It turns out that her anxiety is controllable when staying at home is not an option. Dad is performing consultancy work from home, employing talents he had neglected while someone else paid the bills. They are struggling. Of course they are. That's what happens when you're suddenly forced to be an adult after a 3-year vacation. But they're coping, surviving, and discovering how much things really cost when you have to pay for them yourself. I received a text from my brother last week. Rent is due tomorrow and we are short $40. I did not respond. Not my concern anymore. Mom calls on a monthly basis to provide updates that I do not request. How the infant is doing, what new phrases he's learning, and how they're handling their finances. She always seems shocked that they are making it work. Like paying their own way was an unthinkable concept. Dad occasionally texts with home repair questions. Random things. Leaky faucet, noisy door, and furnace producing noises. I respond occasionally when I'm feeling generous. I usually just email YouTube links. The house was sold. I couldn't afford it myself. I didn't want to anyway. Too many memories of being treated like an ATM with a tool belt. The bank took their cut. The realtor received theirs. We divided what was left. It wasn't much after the mortgage and fees, but it was the end. I used some of that money to buy my motorcycle. I used the remaining to decorate my place precisely the way I wanted it. There are no compromises, no group decisions, and no consideration for anyone else's needs. Pure selfishness felt amazing after 3 years of pure selflessness. My brother attempted reconciliation last month, showing up at my flat with takeout and an apology. I welcomed him in, grabbed some plates, and listened to his lecture on family, mistakes, and second chances. He said that he finally understood what they had done to me, and how they treated me. I told him he understood that he needed to work right now, which was different from genuinely grasping it. His apologies were noted and acknowledged, but comprehension comes through experience rather than necessity. He commented about how difficult it had been to adjust to actual responsibility, such as paying bills, budgeting, and deciding between wants and needs, all of which I had handled for them while they were living in Fantasyland. He inquired whether we were finished, if there was no more family, and whether he needed an uncle for his youngster. I explained that we were still a family. But family did not mean what he imagined it did. It did not imply that one person carries everyone else. It means that everyone bears their own weight and assists when someone stumbles. They had not stumbled. They'd sat down and expected me to carry them indefinitely. He completed his meal in solitude. When he went, he shook my hand. Adults do that. Equals do it. Last week I received a text from Dad. Fixed the kitchen sink myself today, watched 3 YouTube videos, took 4 hours, but I did it. I did not answer, but I did save the message. Progress is progress, even if it comes 3 years later. And I'm enjoying the life I should have had 3 years ago. I have my own room, regulations, and money. No one is treating my paycheck as shared property. The apartment is quiet most nights. I come home from work, eat what I want, watch what I want, and sleep when I'm weary. Simple things might feel revolutionary after being everyone else's solution for years. My brother now texts just on occasion. Updates on the baby, work anecdotes, random stuff, and typical brother things. He's not asking for money, favors, or someone to solve his problems. Just conversing. It is progress. Last month I drove by their duplex. I saw my brother in the yard with the infant. Dad is working on their front steps. Mom hung laundry on a line. A typical family going about its daily routine. No one is waiting for someone else to fix their problems. They don't need me anymore. That's exactly how things should be. The garage is presently empty. The house belongs to strangers. The family is scattered yet functional. And I am free. My wife wanted space to find herself. By day 3, she found another man. I stayed silent, gathered proof and ended it with a divorce. I'm 32 years old, and I met Chloe, a 30-year-old girl, when I was 27. We have been married for 3 years and together for 5. I'm a certified welder who earns $95,000 working on industrial construction projects. She works as a receptionist at a mid-size firm downtown and makes approximately half that. I own the house where we live. I purchased it 2 years before we married with money from my inheritance and maintained the title completely in my name. We split household spending around 70-30 because I earn about double her pay. She paid for groceries, utilities, and home upgrades, but the mortgage was always mine. The first 2 years of marriage were completely typical. Figuring out who would do the dishes, fussing about the thermostat, and planned vacations we couldn't afford yet. She wanted to travel to Europe. I wanted to pay down my mortgage faster. Standard newlywed acclimation period. The house is a 1950s ranch that I remodeled myself. I obtained permits, completed the majority of the electrical and plumbing work on weekends, built a workshop in the garage, refinished the hardwood floors, and upgraded the kitchen with granite countertops and stainless appliances. I invested roughly $40,000 and 2 years of sweat equity in it. The present worth is approximately $280,000 in a rapidly gentrifying neighborhood. Things began to change approximately 8 months ago, when Chloe reunited with her college friend Amber. Amber had returned to town after a nasty divorce, had no children, and was receiving $2,500 per month in alimony from a tech guy who had allegedly cheated. She lived in a trendy downtown apartment, went to clubs every weekend, and shared Instagram stories about living your best life and not settling for less. My best friend Stefan quickly nicknamed her the life coach after meeting her at a cookout. Logan's been my wingman since college. A brutally honest software developer with no tolerance for drama and a dark sense of humor. He made an immediate call after seeing Amber's fancy handbag and artificial eyelashes. Amber was 28, bleached blonde, and one of those ladies who believes having an opinion on everything makes her interesting. She constantly smiled for too long at me and laughed too heartily at my jokes. I chalked it up to extrovert energy back then. I should have known better. She would drive up to our house in her little BMW. She was always dressed for a nightclub and had some fresh love advice that sounded like it came from a daytime talk show. The woman was a walking red flag factory, divorced after 18 months of marriage, with no employment skills other than wasting someone else's money, and a toxic cheerfulness that would make normal people want to leap off bridges. But she had Chloe's ear. Chloe suddenly began to come home with new views about relationships, such as how we had become too complacent, how marriage should not feel like roommates, and how successful couples challenge each other to keep the spark alive. Amber had discovered that week's romance podcast, and it was all recycled rubbish. The struggle began tiny. Why haven't I planned more spontaneous dates? Why was I constantly working late? Why didn't I feel jealous when other guys approached her at parties? Classic created drama, but I hadn't noticed it yet. I was working on a large commercial project downtown, a 12-story office building that was 3 months behind time and $200,000 over budget. The type of job that can make or break careers in my sector. I was working 60-hour weeks, often on Saturdays, to protect the project from becoming a complete disaster. But according to Amber's relationship philosophy, my commitment to keeping us financially stable demonstrated that I didn't care about our marriage. You cannot make this stuff up. By December, we were fighting twice a week, with the same routine. She'd start with something trivial, elevate it to a character assassination, and then appear surprised when I didn't join in the panic. I would try to solve the problem. She would accuse me of being emotionally unavailable. The Christmas battle was over the tree. I'd spent a 12-hour day dealing with structural engineers and city inspectors. I got home fatigued, and she was furious because I didn't appear enthused enough about the tree she bought. I didn't dislike it, but I didn't seem enthusiastic about it. Logan summarized it perfectly. She is creating problems since a divorced acquaintance advised her that her marriage should be like a reality TV show. I started working later, partly due to the project deadline, but primarily because going home seemed like walking through a minefield. She interpreted that as proof that I didn't care about our marriage. Classic catch-22. What I didn't comprehend was that Amber wasn't only poisoning my wife's mind with relationship advice. She strongly encouraged her to consider other possibilities. The breaking point occurred on a Thursday in January. I got home at 7 p.m., which isn't late, and Chloe was sitting at our kitchen table, looking like she'd been practicing something all day. She had already had dinner without me, which was unusual. We used to wait for each other, even if it meant eating at 8 or 9 p.m. I grabbed some leftover Chinese food from the fridge and sat down. The sweet and sour pork was cold, but I was hungry enough not to care. I've been thinking about us, about where we're headed. I think we should take a break, she told me. I stopped eating. A temporary break of a week or two to explore how we feel without each other, to remind ourselves why we fell in love. I knew right where this was coming from. Amber had been feeding her this line for several months. How her ex-husband never valued her before she left. How absence makes the heart fonder. The fact is, I had heard this exact conversation before. My friend Tyler went through the same thing 2 years ago. His wife wanted to take a break and discover herself. She felt perfectly at ease in bed with her yoga instructor. It cost him half his $41,000 and $1,800 per month in child support. "You want to separate?" I inquired. "I want us to pretend we're not married for a little while. See if we miss each other. See if you'll actually fight for us." So there it was. The actual agenda. This was not about taking up space. It was about getting me to dance for her attention. Making me prove my devotion with panic and desire. When I saw my wife of 3 years sitting there with her rehearsed speech and manipulation tactics from her trainwreck friend, something inside me turned cold. Instead than arguing or begging, I simply shrugged. "Okay," I said. She blinked. "Okay, if that's what you want." Her expression of disappointment was immediate. She had expected me to argue, beg, and make a great gesture. Instead, I simply agreed and returned to eating my leftover Chinese cuisine, as if she had asked me to pick some milk on the way home. That's when I realized our marriage was definitely finished. Not because of the break request, but because she was disappointed. I did not argue with her. She preferred drama over fixing anything. I texted Stefan just after she went to bed. "Chloe wishes to take a marital break." His reaction arrived within 30 seconds. "Lol. Let me guess. The life coach had an idea. What is your next move?" "I'm going to let her have her break. See what happens." Smart. Nothing screams "I love you" like a fake relationship test. Logan turned out to be optimistic regarding the timeline. We made the rules that night. We spent 2 weeks behaving like we weren't married. She would stay with Amber. Except for housework and emergencies, there will be no interaction. We would reassess after 14 days. The next morning she packed 2 suitcases, mostly with work clothes and enough casual clothing for 2 weeks. I helped her load them into her Honda Civic and watched as she drove away. The house felt different right away, quieter, but not in a bad way. I can watch ESPN without hearing about toxic masculinity. I could eat cereal for dinner without considering the underlying meaning of my dietary choices. For the first time in months, I was able to rest in my own living room. That first night, I ordered a huge pizza, drank a Coke, and watched the entire Predator trilogy without anyone explaining why action films reinforce negative stereotypes. It was glorious. Logan came over that first weekend with takeaway from a Thai restaurant we had been going to since college. He brought his laptop and we spent 3 hours putting together a fantasy football league for next season. I hadn't had time to think about it in months. "So how's the single life treating you?" questioned the guy. "Pretty good actually. Watched 3 hours of football yesterday without anyone explaining why sports are a symptom of male emotional repression." Logan almost choked on his pad thai. "She actually said that?" "Among other things. Apparently my interest in the Cowboys' playoff run was preventing me from processing my feelings in a healthy way. That weekend, I accomplished something I hadn't done in years. I meticulously examined our money, including our joint bank account, savings, both of our credit cards, and her student debts, which I had been assisting her in repaying. I started documenting all joint assets and debts. We had approximately $35,000 in combined savings and an additional $15,000 in a shared checking account. Her student debt balance remained $28,000 for a marketing degree that landed her a $45,000 job answering phones and booking appointments. I'd been throwing an extra $400 at it every month for the past 2 years, hoping to pay it off faster. I also documented the house improvements we had completed together. Over the course of 3 years, she had given over $8,000 in materials and appliances, the majority of which went toward the kitchen renovation. I did all of the work myself and put in an additional $32,000 of my own money. Monday morning I called Thomas. Not to file anything, but to learn about my alternatives. Thomas took me through Texas divorce law, asset split, and what to expect if things went south. The good news was that the house will remain mine because it was purchased separately before marriage. The improvements were more difficult, but because I had done all of the labor and given the most of the funds, I was likely to retain the majority of the value. By the end of week 1, I'd transferred half of our joint savings to a separate account, which was entirely legal because it was marital property, and I had equal access. I modified my direct deposit to go into my private bank account rather than the combined one. She only texted me once the first week. "Hope you're thinking about us." I showed Logan the text. "What do you think that means?" "It means the life coach told her, you'd be a sobbing mess by now, begging her to come home. Instead, you're probably the most relaxed you've been in months. Must be confusing for her." By the 10th day, Amber had reached out. She evidently believed that 2 weeks was plenty of time to make her move. Tuesday afternoon, I received a text from a number that I had not stored. "Hey, how are you holding up?" We had never texted one-on-one before. I kept it short and friendly. I'm doing okay. This whole thing is weird. I know, right? Chloe's been quite stressed. Maybe we could get some coffee and talk about it. Instead of turning it off immediately, I opted to play along. Maybe that would help. We met on Thursday evening at a Starbucks near her apartment complex. She arrived dressed as if she were heading to a club. For coffee with her friend's husband during a marriage crisis, she wore a tight black dress, complete makeup, and enough perfume to choke a horse. The dress was cut low enough for me to see everything when she bent forward to fetch her latte, which she did repeatedly during our talk. Really subtle. I feel terrible about this whole situation, she murmured, leaning forward across the small table. You guys were so good together. Sure, we were, I thought. That's why she spent 8 months telling my wife we were boring. Were we though? All the fighting lately, that's just her being confused. She doesn't know what she wants. Amber reached out and touched my hand. But I can tell how much this is affecting you. Her nails were painted a strong crimson color that likely cost $50 at the salon. The type of upkeep that necessitates weekly visits and screams high maintenance. I let her to maintain touch for a few seconds before drawing back. It's been tough. You know, if you ever need someone to talk to, I'm here day or night. The chat lasted for an hour. She talked about how I deserved better, how Chloe didn't value what she had, and how if she had married someone like me, things would be different. When we departed, she held me for longer than necessary. This was really nice. We should do it again soon. I got home and immediately called Logan. Dude, you're not going to believe this. Let me guess, the life coach is already shopping for wedding dresses. She basically threw herself at me, dress cut down to her navel, touching my hands, talking about how I deserve better. The woman has the patience of a hungry shark. Of course she does. She probably had this plan before she even suggested the break to Chloe. It's like a 3-step program for home wrecking. What do you think? Play dumb. Let her think she's being subtle while you document everything. This is going to get interesting. Amber increased our contact over the next few days, sending me daily SMS to see how I was doing, and suggested we meet again. Sending photographs with phrases like, thinking of you during this difficult time. The photos were clearly staged. She was at the gym wearing yoga pants. Her in a restaurant with the caption, eating alone again. Her in a bikini near the pool of her apartment complex. Each one was designed to remind me of what I could get if I played my cards correctly. Logan was having a field day with her messages. Look at this one. I hope you know how special you are. What is she? A greeting card. Next she'll be sending you inspirational quotes about following your heart. I answered just enough to keep her engaged without crossing any boundaries, letting myself appear vulnerable and open to her attention. That is when she made her move. Friday evening text. I have something to tell you, but I don't know if I should. What is it? Can we meet? This isn't something for text. We met in the same spot. She appeared uneasy, constantly checking her phone as if she expected someone to call. I feel terrible about this, but I think you deserve to know. She took a big breath, as if she were ready to deliver awful news. Chloe's been seeing someone. I displayed the proper level of shock on my face. What? His name is Scott. She met him at some work conference last month. I've been watching them together, and it's not innocent. According to Amber, Scott was an Austin-based marketing director. Mid-30s, divorced, drives a BMW, works for a software company. The type of guy who most likely has a LinkedIn photo of himself pointing at a whiteboard. You're sure? I saw them at dinner last night. Very cozy. And she's been lying about where she goes when she leaves my apartment. Amber leaned across to take my hand. I'm so sorry, I know this hurts, but you needed to know. The message was plain. I had 2 choices. Fight for a cheating wife, or become her devoted buddy, who would never deceive me like Way. What a coincidence. I played the grieving husband flawlessly. I can't believe she'd do this. You don't deserve this. You deserve someone who values you. I went home that night and did something I should have done weeks before. I reviewed our shared gadgets and accounts. Chloe had left her iPad at home when she moved out, and it was still logged into her iCloud account, with the password I had helped her set up months before. Her SMS messages automatically synced across all of her devices. What I uncovered were 3 weeks of chats with Scott, which began innocently enough, work industry gossip, concerns about a client who couldn't decide on branding colors. But by the 2nd week, it had become personal. Complaints about our marriage, how she felt unappreciated, and how conversing with him reminded her of what it was like to be desired. The current messages were explicit. Plans to meet, discussions about their relationship, and images I didn't want to see. The timing revealed that she had been messaging him during our break, including shortly after she gave me the message about thinking about us. I took screenshots and backed everything up to my personal cloud storage. 47 messages in 3 weeks, including a dozen images and several voicemails I couldn't bear to listen to. Then I looked at our combined credit card statements online, 3 costly dinners at eateries around town in the last week. Meridian and the Capitol Grill were 2 places I had never heard of. A hotel fee from 2 nights ago at the Omni downtown. $280 for a single night. When she told Amber she was heading to Target or seeing work pals, they were all on dates. The hotel fee was the smoking gun. She had used our joint visa to pay for a room where she was hooking up with another person and asked me to wait for her. Like a backup plan. I called Logan. I found it. She's been hooking up with some guy from Austin. No way. Credit card receipts, hotel charges, 3 weeks of text messages planning their hookups. It's all here. Damn. So she convinced your wife to take a break so she could cheat, then came running to you with the information like some loyal friend. That's some next level manipulation right there. What do you think her endgame is? She's betting you'll be so grateful for her loyalty and so hurt by Chloe's betrayal that you'll fall right into her arms. Classic rebound strategy. She destroys your marriage, then offers herself as the upgrade. Well, she's about to find out how that works out for her. I contacted Thomas first thing on Monday morning. I have evidence of adultery, text messages, hotel charges, restaurant receipts. Good. Please bring everything to my office. We will prepare the papers. Thomas went over the evidence for an hour, reading over the text exchanges with the detached professionalism of someone who had seen this narrative 1,000 times before. The text conversations are devastating, the financial records corroborate the time frame, and everything was obtained legally. With this proof, you're looking at keeping the house as separate property, 60 to 65% of joint assets, and no spousal support obligation. He said she lost her rights when she committed adultery. How long does it take to prepare everything? Give me 3 days. I want this to be airtight. Those 3 days were certainly the most unusual of my life. I went to work as if nothing was occurring, handling the construction project, which was finally back on track and under budget. I came home to a peaceful house, ordered takeaway, and watched TV without anyone judging my entertainment selections. Meanwhile, I maintained the distraught husband act with Amber, allowing her to console me about the bad news she had brought and listening to her describe Chloe as a terrible friend to both of us. I can't believe she would do this to you, Amber exclaimed after another coffee encounter. After everything you've done for her. Some people just don't appreciate what they have. Exactly, I replied, playing my part. But maybe this is happening for a reason. Maybe you needed to see who she really was. She leaned across the table to take my hand. And maybe I needed to see who you really are too. Logan nearly choked when I told him about our talk later. She actually said that with a straight face? Maybe I needed to see who you really are. What is this? A romantic comedy? Next she'll be talking about destiny and soulmates. I served Chloe with divorce papers at her office on Thursday morning, following all of the rules as a professional process server. The papers included snippets from text messages as well as financial information relating to the affair. Her call arrived within 1 hour. What the hell is this? Divorce papers with evidence of adultery. This was supposed to be a temporary break. We were going to work things out. You worked it out with Scott instead. Hope that night at the Omni was worth $280. The silence was terrible. I could almost hear her brain scrambling to figure out how I'd learned about the motel. How did you? Your iPad syncs to iCloud. Every text message, every photo, every plan you made with him. I have 3 weeks of evidence. You went through my private messages. She tried some more angles. The break granted her permission. She was perplexed. She never intended things to go this far. None of this mattered. This is insane. It was just texting. The hotel receipt says otherwise, so do the restaurant charges. Another prolonged stillness. You can't just end our marriage over this. I'm not ending our marriage. You did that when you started hooking up with Scott while asking me to wait for you like some kind of backup plan. But her next reaction revealed her true colors. Instead of apologizing or displaying remorse, she went completely nuclear. You know what? I'm glad I did it. Scott actually cares about me. He doesn't just grunt at me when he gets home from work. He takes me places and buys me things and makes me feel special. With our joint credit card. Whatever. At least he has a real job. Not just some grunt work that gets you all dirty and gross. There it was. After 3 years of marriage, she removes the mask completely. My welding career, which had provided me with a steady income, had suddenly become menial labor. The same job that bought her car, paid for her vacations, and kept her college debts up to date. A grunt who makes twice what you make answering phones for. Now Scott's already talking about getting me a better position at his company in Austin, where people actually have ambition. Good luck with that. Hope Scott knows what he's signing up for. He appreciates me. Unlike you, he appreciates having his hotel bills paid by someone else's husband. Real romantic. She hung up on me. Logan was dying when I informed him about our talk. She actually called welding grunt work. The same welding that's been paying her bills for 3 years, and now she's planning to move to Austin with this guy. That woman has completely lost her mind. The divorce process took 4 months. Chloe tried every angle. The break granted her permission. The emotional romance was not physical, until the hotel invoices showed otherwise, and her mouth slipped. She was perplexed and tricked. None of it stuck. Her lawyer was a woman who specialized in women's rights in divorce cases. It didn't matter. Evidence is evidence, and Texas law is unambiguous regarding adultery. But Chloe's true personality became apparent during the proceedings. Instead of demonstrating sorrow or attempting to deal reasonably, she demanded half of everything, including the house. When her lawyer explained how infidelity influenced property split, she threw a fit in the law office, which resulted in her temporary exclusion from the building. Throughout this period, Amber maintained her supportive buddy act with military precision. Regular texts checking in on me, offers to meet for coffee, and hints about moving our relationship to the next level once the divorce was finalized. The woman transformed emotional manipulation into performance art. Every sentence was meticulously constructed to appear sympathetic and encouraging, while positioning herself as the clear upgrade. She undoubtedly spent more time developing her messages than most individuals do with their resumes. She's like a vulture circling a dead marriage, Logan said. Probably has a countdown calendar until you're officially single. I played along just enough to maintain her attention. I met her for coffee twice more. Allow her to soothe me about the divorce process. I listened to her describe Chloe's bad behavior toward both of us. The meetings followed a consistent pattern each time. She'd arrive dressed as if she were auditioning for a music video, spend an hour talking about how supportive she was, and then drop increasingly obvious hints about our future relationship. I feel so guilty, she admitted during one meeting. If I hadn't told you about Scott, maybe you could have worked things out. Right. If she hadn't told me about the affair, she had most likely encouraged it in the first place. You did the right thing, I replied. I needed the truth. I really hate to watch you go through this. You deserve so much more. She leaned across the table to take my hand. And I want you to know that when you're ready, and all of this is behind you, I'll be there for you in whatever manner you need. The message could not have been clearer if she had given me a business card that read, Rebound Relationship Services available 24/7. Logan nearly fell out of his chair when I told him. She answered, in whatever way you need. Is she a full-service consolation prize? Does she come with a warranty? The ultimate settlement was reached in May. I kept the house, my retirement savings, and 65% of our combined assets. Chloe received her car, personal goods, and student loan debt. She did not receive spousal support because she cheated. The house alone was worth $280,000, less the $180,000 mortgage balance. With the modifications I'd made, I had approximately $100,000 in equity that remained mine, plus an additional $32,000 from our shared savings and investments. She walked away with approximately $18,000 in a Honda Civic with 90,000 miles on it. But even then, she refused to accept responsibility. During the final settlement meeting, she had the audacity to claim that the divide was unfair and that I was punishing her for following her heart. Following your heart? I responded. You used our joint credit card to pay for hotel rooms with another guy. Scott and I have a real connection, something you'd never understand. I understand it cost us $280 plus dinner at 3 different restaurants. Her lawyer had to physically stop her from lunging across the conference table. The woman had totally lost it. That's what happens when you try to have your cake and eat it too, Logan told me. Amber invited me to celebrate the divorce at an elegant downtown restaurant. She'd chosen Meridian, one of those restaurants where the appetizers cost $30, and the servers regard you as if you're interrupting their genuine job in theater. She hesitated when I recommended the location, perhaps wondering why I suddenly wanted to pout and dine, but her ambition trumped her intuition. She arrived in a frock that likely cost more than my car payment. clearly expecting today to be the night she finally made good on her investment in destroying my marriage. "I'm so proud of how you handled everything," she exclaimed over appetizers that looked like modern art, but tasted like disappointment. "You were so strong through the whole process. I had good support. I was happy to help. You deserve to know the truth." She leaned across the table to take my hand. "And now we can finally be honest about what's been building between us." I glanced at her across the table, well made up, in a fancy dress, with a predatory smile she had most likely practiced in the mirror, and felt nothing but hate. "Amber, there's something I need to tell you." "What is it?" "You destroyed my marriage." "What?" I helped you see what Chloe really was. You were trying to break us up so you could move in on me. You encouraged her to cheat, then came running to me with the information like some loyal friend." Amber's face became pale under her foundation. For the first time since I'd known her, she appeared astonished. I would never." "You absolutely would. And you did. You manipulated a woman into destroying her marriage because you wanted her husband. I cared about both of you. I was trying to protect you from getting hurt worse. You were protecting your own interests. You saw an opportunity and you took it." I stood up and dropped two $20 banknotes onto the table. "The saddest part is that you actually think I'd want to be with someone capable of what you did. Where are you going? We haven't even had dinner." "I'm going home alone to my house that I kept because I was smart enough not to trust people like you." "What about us?" I looked down at her, still sitting in her fancy outfit, and realized that her intricate manipulation had resulted in nothing. "There is no us. There never was. You're a toxic person who destroys relationships for your own entertainment. But I helped you. I told you the truth about Chloe. You told me the truth about an affair you encouraged her to have. You created the problem, then offered yourself as the solution. That's not help. That's sabotage with a marketing campaign." But I wasn't finished yet. I had one more card to play. I texted Chloe an hour earlier, saying Amber wanted to confess something about Scott. I said it was vital, and you should hear it. She bit immediately. 10 minutes into supper she walked through the restaurant door, her eyes immediately searching for blood. "What's she doing here?" Amber raised her voice an octave. "Ladies, you two have a lot to discuss. I'll leave you to it." I stood up and proceeded to the exit, but not before contacting Logan. "Dude, you need to get down to Meridian Restaurant right now." "What's happening?" "The life coach is about to get a performance review from her former client." I could hear Chloe's voice rising behind me. "You set me up with Scott." "It wasn't like that. I was trying to help you." "Help me? You destroyed my marriage so you could steal my husband." I arrived at the parking lot just as things became very interesting. Through the restaurant windows I could see both women standing there, gesticulating madly. Other diners began to stare, pulling out their phones to record the event. Logan arrived just as the main entertainment began. "Holy crap, they're going at it," he exclaimed, stepping out of his pickup. "This is better than pay-per-view." Chloe's voice was clearly audible through the glass. "You've been planning this for months. He doesn't even want you. He chose me. He just rejected you. You delusional psycho." That's when Amber hurled something that resembled her water glass. It broke against the wall behind Chloe, who reacted by seizing Amber's luxury pocketbook and spilling its contents all over the table. "Oh, this is getting good," Logan exclaimed, already phoning 911. "Hello police, I'd like to report a disturbance at Meridian Restaurant downtown." Through the window we saw Amber rush across the table toward Chloe, who grabbed her hair. They both went down, bringing half of the table settings with them. Other customers scrambled away from their tables as plates tumbled to the floor. "Should we go to help?" I asked. "Help? Dude, this is the best entertainment I've had all year. They're both getting exactly what they deserve." The restaurant manager appeared, attempting to separate them, but Amber threw him aside and pursued Chloe again. Chloe retaliated by throwing what appeared to be a breadbasket, which hit Amber square in the face. By the time the cops came 5 minutes later, both women were on the floor, their hair disheveled, makeup smeared, and yelling at each other as the restaurant staff attempted to restore order. Several other guests were filming with their smartphones. Both officers exchanged glances, as if they had previously dealt with a similar circumstance. "Ladies, you're both under arrest for disturbing the peace and assault." Logan and I observed from the parking lot as they handcuffed both women and loaded them into different patrol cars while ranting at each other through the windows. They stayed the night in county holding. Apparently shouting in public and hurling dinnerware is not covered by girl drama. "That," Logan replied, was absolutely beautiful. The next morning I received a call from Chloe from the county jail. "This is all your fault," she said right away. "How exactly is your bar fight with Amber my fault? You set us up. You planned this." I told her the truth about what she did to our marriage. "What you two did after that was entirely your choice. We both got arrested because of you. You both got arrested because you decided to have a cage match in a public restaurant. That's on you." But she wasn't finished being entitled. "You need to bail me out. I'm your wife. Ex-wife as of yesterday, and no, I don't need to do anything for you. I don't have anyone else to call. Scott won't answer his phone. Sounds like a personal problem. You can't just leave me here. Watch me." The call lasted about 3 minutes until she hung up on me. Logan was dying when I told him later. "That woman has balls, I'll give her that." Both women ended up spending the night in jail and were fined for disrupting the peace. Chloe also had to pay for the restaurant's damaged property, which totaled roughly $800 in broken dishes, glassware, and cleaning fees. The incident was reported on various social media pages as "divorce drama turns into restaurant brawl." Someone recorded the entire event on their phone and shared it on TikTok. The video received 80,000 views during the first week. "When keeping it real goes wrong," wrote one commenter with 500 likes. Chloe returned to live with her parents in suburban Dallas. Last I heard, she was working for a different company and earning around the same amount of money, but a viral video revealed she has a criminal record. Scott broke up with her after realizing he had been exploited to destroy a marriage and then publicly humiliated in a viral restaurant brawl. The funniest part was that Scott supposedly tried to avoid her after the arrest, but she kept showing up to his workplace in Austin to try to sort things out. His company needed to incorporate building security. Guy went from believing he was a player to seeking a restraining order. Amber attempted to contact me for several weeks following the arrest, alternately apologizing and accusing me. It began with, "I'm so sorry, I don't know what came over me," then progressed to, "You manipulated both of us, and destroyed 2 friendships." I ultimately disabled her phone number after she showed up at my house unexpectedly one Saturday morning, demanding to know why I was punishing her for being a wonderful friend. The house feels like home again. I got rid of all the decorative pillows that served no purpose. The perfumed candles were never allowed to be lit. Purchased a good sectional couch, a 65-inch television for the living room, and converted the spare bedroom into a home office. Trash occasionally removes itself.